Chapter 861. Imperial overlooking 9 stars. White-brow heavenly master clutched his empty right arm as he watched Juan disappear into the abyss. His expression was extremely ugly. Although he did not know much about the abyss in the center of the ice prison, he knew quite a bit. It was said that the abyss led to the most mysterious 18th floor of the dungeon. It was said that an extremely powerful warrior was imprisoned on the 18th floor. Back then, this warrior had caused havoc in the imperial capital and killed many celestial venerables. To put it bluntly, this person had killed celestial venerables as if they were dogs. Thinking of the rumors, White-brow heavenly master did not dare to go near the abyss. He knew that the existence in the abyss could easily kill him. Fortunately, there was a powerful formation that Emperor Qing did not know of within 10 miles of the abyss. The attack released by the person imprisoned on the 18th floor could not go beyond 10 miles. Boom, boom, boom. An even more terrifying vibration resounded from the ice prison. Then, the terrifying snowstorm in the sky squirmed crazily and finally exploded, setting off countless raging airflows. Xiang Tianzuan and the others, who had been trying their best to get closer to Lu Hantian, were sent flying like stray dogs. Their faces were as pale as snow and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. The snowstorm receded, gradually revealing Lu Hantian's figure. At this moment, Lu Hantian's eyes were still closed as he sat upright in the ice cage. A terrifying pillar of light shot up from Lu Hantian's body into the sky. It penetrated the entire dungeon from the ice prison and shot into the sky. Rumble. At this moment, it was not just the ice prison that was shaking. The entire dungeon of the imperial capital was shaking violently. What's going on? Why is the dungeon shaking so violently? What's happening at the bottom of the dungeon? In the dungeon of the imperial capital, the guards' eyes were filled with panic. The sudden shaking of the dungeon had left them at a loss as to what to do. They did not even know what to do. The pillar of light became even more dazzling and thick. It rushed into the 9 layers of clouds, as if it wanted to pierce through the heavens. Under the illumination of the pillar of light, the pitch-black night sky was as bright as day. The countless pitch-black clouds in the night sky began to rotate continuously in a counterclockwise direction along with the pillar of light. Furthermore, the speed of the rotation was extremely fast, forming an inverted funnel as it sank downwards. What's going on? Why is there a sudden phenomenon? What a terrifying aura! This aura is like the might of the heavens, truly terrifying. The direction of the light pillars seems to be in the Imperial City's dungeon. Let's go and take a look. What's going on? The pillar of light that soared into the sky instantly attracted the attention of countless cultivators in the imperial capital. Numerous figures flashed out in the night like ghosts, heading towards the dungeon of the imperial capital. Within the imperial city, within the majestic throne room, a figure seated cross-legged in an open-air hall slowly opened his eyes. He lifted his head to look at the light pillar that soared into the sky. A ripple appeared in his calm eyes. His gaze pierced through the end of the light pillar and saw 9 shining stars that were neatly arranged. The 9 stars were extremely dazzling. A phenomenon from the heavens. The Emperor descends to the 9 stars? Someone is about to break through to the Emperor realm and become an emperor? The person suddenly stood up. The calmness in his eyes was finally replaced by shock. At this moment, the intense light from the light pillar also illuminated the person's facial features. It was the ruler of the Qing Xian Empire, Emperor Qing. Looking at the direction of the light pillar, it should be the dungeon of the imperial city. Could it be that the person breaking through to the emperor realm is Lu Hantian? Oh no, I have to hurry over. As he spoke, Emperor Qing's gaze became gloomy. With a wave of his sleeve, he disappeared from the throne room. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out in the sky above the 9 heavens. Following which, 9 huge stars descended from the 9 heavens. Although they were not as blazing as the sun, nor as bright as the moon, they were inextinguishable stars. The Emperor descends to the 9 stars? These are 9 Emperor stars. Oh my God! Someone actually broke through. Does this mean that our Qing Xian Empire is about to have a second Emperor realm powerhouse? At this moment, A dense crowd had already gathered around the dungeon of the imperial city. These cultivators raised their heads and saw the 9 stars descending from the 9 heavens. Their faces were filled with shock. Many cultivators had already recognized this terrifying phenomenon. It was the symbol of a cultivator breaking through to the Emperor realm. Back then, when Emperor Qing broke through, 9 Emperor stars had also descended from the 9 heavens. This was the law of heaven and earth celebrating the cultivator who had reached the Emperor realm. Other than shock, the crowd was also puzzled. They were puzzled as to who had broken through to the Emperor realm. Why was this person in the dungeon of the imperial city? Could it be a prisoner in the dungeon? Although they were puzzled, none of the cultivators surrounding the dungeon dared to barge into the dungeon. After all, this was the forbidden area of the imperial city. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter this place. However, because of the strange phenomenon, the entire dungeon shook violently. Many of the guards in the dungeon ran out in a panic. An imposing figure suddenly flew over. He was wearing a green robe. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were filled with seriousness. It's Emperor Qing. It seems that the phenomenon of the Emperor realm is really attractive. Even someone like Emperor Qing has been attracted. Looking at the green figure that appeared in the sky above the dungeon, many people in the surroundings started to discuss and whisper to each other. What's going on? Staring at the panicking guards below, the Lotus Emperor asked coldly with a cold gaze. He Yao, who was hiding among the guards, quickly stepped out and told Emperor Qing everything that had happened in the dungeon. However, he did not enter the ice prison, so he did not know the exact situation. He only knew that this phenomenon was caused by Lu Hantian. As expected, Lu Hantian has broken through. And did Zhuan break into the dungeon as well? Emperor Qing asked again. He Yao's eyes flickered. He replied with uncertainty, there are traces of people breaking into the first 10 floors of the dungeon. However, Zhuan's ability to hide is too strong. I don't know his exact location. Emperor Qing nodded and did not ask any more questions. He took a step forward and went deep into the dungeon. Not long after Emperor Qing entered the dungeon, Elder Shiwan and Moyan Wushang looked at each other and frowned in a bush far away from the dungeon. They had been waiting outside for more than 2 days, but Zhuowen still hadn't come out. Originally, they were already burning with anxiety. Just as they were about to break into the dungeon to find out the details, such a strange phenomenon suddenly occurred in the dungeon. The cause of this phenomenon is most likely Lu Hantian. Lu Hantian is really demonic. Under such a dangerous situation, he can still forcefully break through to the Emperor realm. I am impressed. Elder Shiwan nodded. Elder Shiwan. Emperor Qing has already entered the dungeon. There are also 8 heavenly masters, including Xiang Tianzuan and Aoki. Lu Hantian and Zhuan are no match for them. We have to go and help. Moyan Wushang said. Elder Shun nodded and said, Miss Wushang, don't worry. Zhuo Xiaoyu is the 2nd elder of the Arcane Art Guild. I will not leave you in the lurch. Let's break into the dungeon now. I would like to see if Emperor Qing's strength has become stronger than before. With that, Elder Shiwan and Moyan Wushang took a step forward. They no longer hid themselves and rushed toward the dungeon. Who is it? How dare you break into the dungeon of the imperial city? As soon as Elder Shiwan and Moyan Wushang appeared, they were discovered by He Yao, who was guarding outside. Elder Shiwan and Moyan Wushang ignored He Yao's question. Instead, they rushed toward the entrance of the dungeon. You are courting death. Hey you, He Shi, follow me and kill these 2 traitors. He Yao was furious when he saw that the 2 men had ignored him. He took a step forward and swung his long spear at the 2 men. A terrifying force flew out and tore through the air. He Yu and He Shi did not want to be outdone. They followed behind He Yao and used their best moves in an attempt to kill the 2 traitors in front of them. Elder Shiwan snorted and a terrifying mental strength gushed out. When Dark Light and the other 2 who were in midair came into contact with the terrifying mental strength, their bodies froze and they became motionless. Elder Shiwan waved his right hand casually and the 3 men were sent flying backward. They spat out blood and smashed onto the ground, stirring up a lot of dust. Elder Shiwan and Moyan Wushang did not look at He Yao and the other two men as they disappeared from the entrance of the dungeon. At that moment, Lu Hantian was still sitting cross-legged in the icy hell on the 17th level of the dungeon. However, the light pillar that shot out from his body had gradually dimmed. Starlight wrapped around Lu Hantian's body, making him look mysterious and peaceful. Xiang Tianzuan and the rest slowly stepped back and came to the open space where the White-Brow Heavenly Master was. Xiang Tianzuan and the rest noticed that the White-Brow Heavenly Master's right arm was empty and they were surprised. White-Brow, what happened to you? Did Zhuan chop off his right arm? Xiang Tianzuan could not help but ask. When the White-Brow Heavenly Master felt the other Heavenly Masters looking at him in surprise, he said, that little bastard is not that powerful. It was the one on the 18th level who did it. When the White-Brow Heavenly Master mentioned the one on the 18th level, a look of fear appeared in his eyes. The one on the 18th level was the one who had suppressed them personally. What? That person did it? Damn it, that person is too powerful. Even if Emperor Qing sealed him personally, he could not suppress his cultivation. When Xiang Tianzuan mentioned the prisoner on the 18th level, his expression was no better than White-Brow Heavenly Master's. Is that guy so powerful? I remember that he was not as powerful as Emperor Qing back then. Aoki asked with a frown. Apparently, Aoki knew something about the prisoner on the 18th level. Chapter 862. The Qing Emperor's Arrival. Are we just going to let Zhuowen fall into the abyss? Aoki frowned. Xiang Tianzuan shook his head and said, we're just going to die if we enter the abyss. Only the Qing Emperor has the ability to enter the abyss. Furthermore, Lu Hantian's breakthrough has caused such a huge commotion. The Qing Emperor should be here soon. Boom, boom. The ice hell prison shook violently again. 9 huge stars came crashing down from the ground, creating 9 huge craters on the surface of the prison. 9 holes appeared in the 9 stars. 9 dazzling stars revolved around Lu Hantian's body. The sparkling starlight made Lu Hantian look mysterious. Boom! Lu Hantian suddenly opened his eyes. A ray of light flashed across his eyes. An aura that was even more terrifying than before burst out. This aura had far surpassed the peak of the Heavenly Master realm. Without a doubt, Lu Hantian had successfully broken through to the Imperial Power realm. I've finally broken through. I don't have to give in to the Qing Emperor anymore. Lu Hantian laughed arrogantly. He took a step forward and brought the 9 stars with him to the open space of the icy prison. He looked at Xiang Tianzuan and the others and asked indifferently, where did Zhuowen go? After breaking through, Lu Hantian used his divine consciousness to search for Zhuowen. However, to his disappointment, there was no trace of Zhuowen in the icy prison. Lu Hantian, don't be too arrogant. You've just broken through to the Imperial Power realm. There's a big gap between you and the Qing Emperor. Even if we 8 Heavenly Masters join forces, we can still suppress you. Xiang Tianzuan didn't answer Lu Hantian's question. Instead, he clenched his fists and said nervously, I'm asking where Zhuowen went. Lu Hantian asked again. His voice was extremely cold. Xiang Tianzuan and the others' eyes flashed. They didn't answer and silently retreated. Xiang Tianzuan had said that the 8 Heavenly Masters wouldn't be afraid of Lu Hantian if they joined forces. However, even Xiang Tianzuan didn't believe his own words. Everyone below the Emperor realm was like an ant. This was not a casual remark, it was a fact. Even though Lu Hantian had just advanced to the sovereign realm, he was still not someone a celestial sovereign could compare with. To put it bluntly, Celestial Sovereign Ziyang and the other 8 Celestial Sovereigns were simply not enough for the current Lu Hantian. Black and white, let's go. Qing Mu's eyes flickered. He transmitted his voice to the black and white elders beside him. Then he quietly retreated. He wanted to seize the opportunity to leave the ice prison. Ha. Do you think you can leave? Back then, Nantian died because of your Blue Dragon Hall. Today, I'm going to make you pay for it. Stay here. Lu Hantian Heavenly Master's indifferent voice rang out. Then, 3 of the 9 stars around him turned into 3 streaks of starlight and shot toward Aoki Heavenly Masters who were retreating. Boom, boom. Aoki Heavenly Master's expression changed drastically. He shouted, "Black and white, run." With that, Aoki Heavenly Masters sped up. They turned into 3 streaks of light and flew toward the entrance of the ice prison. Unfortunately, the speed of the 3 stars was much faster than the 3 of them. They caught up with the 3 of them in an instant. Rumbling sounds could be heard as they sunk downwards, crushing the 3 of them. "Damn it! Block it for me!" Aoki Heavenly Masters roared angrily when he saw the huge stars crushing down on him. He raised his hands and a wisp of green light shot out from between his eyebrows. The green light was in the shape of a small sapling. As soon as the green light appeared, it grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, it turned into a towering tree with countless vines and branches. It looked dense and lush. As its name suggested, Aoki Armor Soul was a 1,000-year-old Aoki Heavenly Master. It had extremely terrifying defensive and recovery abilities. With this special Armor Soul, Aoki Heavenly Masters might not be able to break through Aoki Heavenly Master's defense even though his attack was not strong. After Aoki Heavenly Masters released their Armor Soul, Black and White was not to be outdone. A black and a white light shot out from between their eyebrows and turned into 2 huge dragons, one black and one white. The 2 supreme elders of the Blue Dragon Hall also had dragon souls. However, the quality of the dragon souls in Black and White's bodies was too low. They were even inferior to Aoki's 3rd-grade dragon soul. They were probably 2nd-grade dragon souls. Even so, their power was not weaker than Aoki's armor soul. The 1,000-year-old Aoki Heavenly Masters and the black and white dragons soared into the sky, trying to block the huge stars falling from the sky. Rumble! The 3 stars were powerful. The moment they came into contact with the 1,000-year-old Aoki Heavenly Masters and the black and white dragons, they crushed the 3 armor souls with irresistible force. The armor souls of the 3 Aoki Heavenly Masters were crushed into powder in less than a quarter of an hour. Boom! 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 Aoki Heavenly Masters roared angrily. Using all the Yuan energy in his body, they blocked the stars in the sky. However, the power of the stars was too strong. Although Aoki Heavenly Masters and the other 2 tried their best, their bodies were still trembling and their legs were slightly bent. The strong pressure even caused Aoki Heavenly Masters' feet to sink into the ground. Go! Seeing Aoki Heavenly Masters and the other 2 suppressed in an instant, Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters and the others finally witnessed the terror of Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters. They no longer had the slightest thought of provoking him. Instead, they split up and fled in different directions. "You can't escape." Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters stood silently in the center of the ice prison. He walked leisurely and waved his right hand. Suddenly, the remaining 5 stars turned into 5 streams of light and swept towards Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters. Boom! 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 Violent vibrations resounded. Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters and the other 2 were immediately suppressed by the 5 stars. They did not dare to act rashly. Slowly walking to Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters, Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters asked indifferently, "Tell me where Zhuan is, or die." Looking at the murderous Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters, Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters' eyes were filled with fear. It was too terrifying. He did not expect Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters to be so powerful when he had just advanced to the Emperor realm. "I'll tell you." Luan Heavenly Masters fought with Bai Mei. When he was captured, he was rescued by the one at the bottom of the abyss. "If you want to find Zhuan Heavenly Masters, you can go to the abyss," Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters said without hiding anything. Which senior attacked him in the abyss? Hearing this, Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters nodded. Then he slowly floated in the air and continued, "If that's the case, then you can die." As he spoke, Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters pressed down with his right hand. The pressure on the 8 stars suddenly increased by several times. Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters' faces flushed red with pain. Their bodies swayed as if they could not hold on any longer, and they all knelt on the ground. "Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters, His Majesty Emperor Qing will not let you go." Xiang Tianzuan Heavenly Masters shouted sternly. At this moment he was not in a good state. He knelt on the ground, his face as pale as snow. An Emperor Realm powerhouse had the right to mobilize the power of the stars in the sky. This power of the stars was too terrifying. It was not something that heavenly masters like them could resist. Don't worry, I won't let Emperor Qing go either. Before that, you should go to hell first. Lu Hantian Heavenly Master's eyes were indifferent. He raised his right hand again, intending to increase the power of the 8 stars and crush Zheng Tianzuan Heavenly Masters to death in one fell swoop. Whoosh! A green figure suddenly rushed out from the entrance of the ice prison. This person waved his sleeves, and 8 green lights shot out. These green lights accurately shot toward the stars that were crushing Zheng Tianzuan Heavenly Masters. Bang! 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 The sound of heavy objects colliding rang out continuously. Immediately, the 8 stars were knocked back by the 8 green lights. When they were dozens of meters away from Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters, they slowly stopped and revolved around Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters again. Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters narrowed his eyes and stared at the green figure that had just appeared in front of him. His lips trembled as he said, "Emperor Qing, I didn't expect that even you would appear. It seems that my breakthrough ceremony is quite grand. Not only are the 8 heavenly masters here, but even you are here to witness it. Your Majesty Emperor Qing." Zheng Tianzuan Heavenly Masters felt the pressure on their bodies lighten. They immediately noticed Emperor Qing, who was not far away, and hurriedly went to him and cupped their hands. Zheng Tianzuan Heavenly Masters came to Emperor Qing's side and whispered, "Your Majesty Emperor Qing." Zhuan was rescued by the person on the 18th level. Emperor Qing's eyes narrowed when he heard that. He muttered softly, "It seems that guy recognized Zhuan? But so what if he recognized him? No one can break the shackles on his body, let alone Zhuan. Now, let's deal with Lu Hantian first. After we take down Lu Hantian, I will enter the abyss and capture Zhuan." As he spoke, Emperor Qing took a step forward and arrived 100 meters away from Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters. Wisps of green light flickered and turned into 9 green stars that continuously revolved around Emperor Qing. "Lu Hantian, I can give you another chance. If you join the Qing Xin Empire and assist me, I will give you unparalleled status and resources. Furthermore, we have 2 thearchs. Our Qing Xin Empire is much stronger than the Yenxian Empire. When the time comes, I can send troops to attack the Yenxian Empire and pass the Yenxian Empire's Flame Emperor position to you." Emperor Qing said patiently. Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters sneered and said, "Emperor Qing, do you think I can still believe you? I can tell you clearly that I don't care about you." Emperor Qing's eyes darkened. This Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters really did not know what was good for him. Although he did not have much hope in persuading Lu Hantian, he naturally did not feel good when he heard Lu Hantian Heavenly Master's filthy words. "Since that is the case, don't blame me for being impolite." As he spoke, the aura in Emperor Qing's body surged. The terrifying aura gushed out, causing the area around Emperor Qing to become a vacuum. Swoosh swoosh. The moment Emperor Qing released all his aura, 2 figures arrived at the ice prison break. The 2 figures looked around the ice prison break and immediately came to Lu Hantian Heavenly Master's side. "Moyan Wushang, Elder Xuan?" Emperor Qing immediately recognized the 2 people who had appeared in the ice prison break and muttered to himself, "We have finally arrived at the ice prison break. Where is Zhuan?" Moyan Wushang looked around, trying to find Zhuan. Looking at Elder Xuan and Moyan Wushang, Lu Hantian Heavenly Master's eyes softened. When Zhuan had communicated with him, he knew that Moyan Wushang and Elder Xuan had accompanied Zhuan to save him. "Zhuan should be safe now. You don't have to worry," Lu Hantian Heavenly Masters said calmly. Chapter 863. Wild Lion, Elder Miss Wushang, this has nothing to do with you two, right? Why are the 2 of you interfering in this matter? The Azure Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked coldly. Elder Shun shook his head and said, "Emperor Qing, you are wrong. Dajun is the 2nd elder of my arcane guild and a genius of my arcane guild. How could Zhuowen's affairs have nothing to do with me?" "Then Zhuowen is the 2nd elder of your arcane guild? What about Elder Luli?" the Lotus Emperor asked in surprise. He really had no idea that Jun had become the second elder of the Arcane Guild. Elder Lioli has been killed by Zhuo Xiaoyu for bending the law for personal gain. Moreover, Zhuo Xiaoyu's mental strength is much stronger than Lioli's, so you are fully qualified to be the second elder, Elder Shiwan said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Emperor Qing fell into a rare silence. He immediately turned his eyes and looked at Moyan Wushang. Since Yun was a member of the Arcane Guild, he had nothing to say. What about Moyan Wushang? Moyan Wushang's origin was extremely mysterious in the eyes of outsiders, but Emperor Qing knew Moyan Wushang's background. However, because he knew Moyan Wushang's background, he was quite afraid of this smiling woman. Moyan Wushang chuckled and said, "Your Majesty, Jun once consecrated the morning bell and evening drum for me. I have no choice but to return this favor. Also, a few years ago, you imprisoned someone from the outer court. That's why I'm here." You're from the outer yard? Why don't I know about it? The Lotus Emperor frowned and asked in confusion. Of course the Azure the Arch doesn't know. This person is very stubborn and has never revealed that he is from the outer yard. Coincidentally, this person is in the ice hell. After saying that, Moyan Wushang suddenly turned to Lu Hantian and cupped his hands. "Senior Lu, can you release that person for this little girl?" Moyan Wushang pointed at one of the figures in the remaining 3 cages. It was a middle-aged man with long golden hair. He looked like a majestic lion. The middle-aged man naturally noticed Moyan Wushang. He slowly opened his eyes, revealing a helpless expression. Clearly, he had also recognized Moyan Wushang. "It's nothing." Lu Hantian laughed heartily. With a wave of his sleeve, a beam of star energy shot out. Instantly, the 3 suspended cages were broken. The 3 heavenly venerables trapped in the cages were released and landed beside Lu Hantian and the others. "Thank you for saving me, Brother Lu." Among the 3 people, one of them was naturally the blonde man that Moyan Wushang had mentioned. The other 2 people were an old man wearing a patterned robe, and the other was a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance. The blonde man's cultivation was the strongest among the 3. He had reached the peak of the heavenly venerable realm. The other 2 were also in the late stage of the heavenly venerable realm. Although Lu Hantian had fewer people than the Azure the Arch, their overall strength was not inferior to the Azure Thearchas. "Uncle Mangshur, you really know how to hide. You actually hid in a remote place like the Qing Xin Empire. You made us look for you for so long." Moyan Wushang stared at the blonde man and asked coldly. The blonde man named Mangshur unconsciously touched his head. His face revealed a simple and honest expression. He said, "Wushang, I didn't expect you to find me here. It was my fault. But you also know that the old man is too annoying. He despises me for my poor talent and strength. What can I do? Isn't the reason why I hid in the Qing Xin Empire to avoid the nagging old man?" Moyan Wushang shook his head and said, "Actually, Grandpa did that for your own good. You misunderstood his good intentions." Mangshur scratched his head and said, "I know that the old man has good intentions. But I really can't stand that old man nagging me like a fly. Alright, since I found you this time, I must bring you back. When the time comes, you can have a good talk with Grandpa. Do you know that during the time you were away, Grandpa didn't eat or drink? His whole body became haggard. He also told me that if you can come back, he will not restrict your freedom in the future." Moyan Wushang glanced at Mangshur and said. Hearing this, Mangshur's eyes revealed a trace of shame. It seemed that his impulsiveness had really hurt the old man. He hurriedly said honestly, "This time, I won't run away again. I'll follow you to the outer court." Moyan Wushang smiled sweetly and said, "That's right. We are a family, what's there to talk about?" The Qing Emperor didn't stop Lu Hantian. After Mangshur and the others were released, he said indifferently, "Miss Wushang, since the person you are looking for has been released and I don't want to be your enemy, I think you can leave this place first." Mangshur sneered and said, "You have imprisoned me for 5 or 6 years. Do you want to just let it go?" The Qing Emperor glanced at Mangshur coldly. Seeing the latter's determined eyes, he knew that Mangshur wouldn't leave so easily. He then looked at the other 2 celestial masters behind Mangshur and said, "What about you two? Are you going to die with them?" The eyes of the two released heavenly venerables flickered. After a moment of hesitation, they lifted their feet and turned into a stream of light, heading towards the entrance of the ice and snow purgatory. After a few leaps, they disappeared into the ice and snow prison. Looking at the two celestial masters who left the ice-snow prison without hesitation, the Qing Emperor smiled. However, Lu Hantian and the others' faces darkened. They had finally released the two celestial masters from the prison. At the critical moment, they abandoned them and left without hesitation. Two cowards. Meng Shi said disdainfully. Miss Wushang, do you think it is worth it to go against us for a little zhuoan? The Qing Emperor tried to persuade Moyan Wushang again. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Qing Emperor, what's the use of talking nonsense here? Lu Hantian's eyes flashed coldly. He took a step and rushed toward the Qing Emperor with the 9 stars. Waves of star power surrounded his body, bathing him in starlight. Ridiculous! Lu Hantian, so what if you have broken through to the Imperial Power Realm? To me, your strength is still not enough. The Qing Emperor's face turned cold. He jumped and brought the 9 celestial masters with him. They turned into a green light and rushed toward Lu Hantian. Rumble! The 18 celestial masters collided with each other and 18 ear-piercing explosions sounded. Terrifying shockwaves spread out in a ring shape. The entire ice-snow prison shook violently. Crack, crack. The sound of glass shattering rang out continuously. Dense cracks appeared on the surface of the ice hell, and these cracks were getting bigger and bigger, denser and denser. In the end, the ice hell actually began to collapse at this moment. The surrounding ice walls were like glass, shattering into countless pieces, and an extremely dense amount of crushed stones fell from above. Oh no! The power of the 2 Imperial Power Realm experts is too terrifying. The ice-snow prison is about to collapse. Elder Shiwan's face changed slightly. Let's leave the Imperial City prison immediately. Meng Shi said to Moyan Wushang and the others. What about Zhuoan? Moyan Wushang looked at the abyss in the middle of the ice-snow prison worriedly. Lu Hantian had told them about Zhuoan's situation. She knew that Zhuoan had fallen into the abyss because of Whitebrow Holy Master. The abyss leads to the 18th level of the prison. The 18th level is a small world built by the Qing Emperor. Even if the entire 17th level of the prison collapses, Zhuoan will be fine. Besides that, there's a prisoner with extremely terrifying strength locked up in the 18th level. If we enter the 18th level, we'll probably suffer the attacks of that expert. At that time, it's very likely that we'll perish there. It is not realistic for us to enter. Meng Shi's face was solemn. He had been in the icy snow purgatory for 5 to 6 years, so he knew a lot about the abyss in the center of the icy snow purgatory. It was very dangerous inside. Even if a heavenly venerable expert entered, he was afraid that he would not be able to return alive. If Zhuoan falls in, won't he die? Moyan Wushang's beautiful eyes narrowed. I'm not sure. Let's leave this place quickly. The ice-snow prison will collapse soon. Meng Shi pulled Moyan Wushang towards the entrance of the ice prison. Elder Shiwan furrowed his brows and followed closely behind them. Heavenly Venerate Ziyang and the others had already left the icy snow prison when the icy snow prison trembled. When Meng Shi, Moyan Wushang and Elder Shiwan finally came out of the prison, an even more terrifying tremor came from the prison. Then, the rockery above the prison shattered into countless pieces of rubble in the blink of an eye. What the hell is going on? Why did the prison collapse? Did a great battle happen in the prison? Around the dungeon, countless cultivators stared in shock at the shattered fake mountain, as well as the powerful tremors that came from underground, causing many of them to lose their footing. Dark Light and the other guards who were guarding outside the dungeon were also stunned. They didn't expect such a terrifying anomaly to happen in the dungeon. Boom, boom. A deafening sound filled the area of several hundred miles around the dungeon. The area of several dozen miles around the dungeon had completely collapsed, forming an extremely terrifying and deep pit. The depths of the huge pit were dark and gloomy, as if it was a bottomless abyss. Then, from this terrifying huge pit, 18 dazzling stars suddenly soared into the sky, leaping up and rising into the air. Among the 18 stars, 9 were green and 9 were dark red. In the middle of the 18 stars, 2 stalwart figures were intertwined. Terrifying power exploded, causing the space around them to collapse inch by inch, forming a vacuum. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the 18 stars in the sky and the 2 figures with terrifying strength. Chapter 864. Nether Dragon. It's actually a battle between 2 martial emperors. This is unbelievable. One of them is Emperor Qin. Who is the other? Why have I never seen him before? The uproar spread like a tsunami. Everyone looked up at the 18 stars that were constantly colliding in the sky, as well as the 2 terrifying figures surrounded by the stars. In the stars, the green figure was Emperor Qin. Many people were familiar with him, but the other person's clothes were ragged and his hair was disheveled. He looked like a beggar on the street. His appearance was not flattering, and most people were unfamiliar with him. That's Lu Hantian, the former top expert of Muqin County. Some time ago, there was a rumor that Lu Hantian was imprisoned in the Imperial City's dungeon by Emperor Qin. Now, it seems that the rumor is true. That person is Lu Hantian? This person's talent is terrifying. His cultivation was sealed by Emperor Qin and imprisoned in the dungeon, but he managed to break through to the martial emperor realm. How terrifying! Many people in the crowd had already recognized Lu Hantian's identity, and they all cried out in surprise. Some of the surrounding cultivators who did not know what was going on also revealed looks of understanding. Many cultivators had never seen Lu Hantian's true appearance before. They had only heard of Lu Hantian's reputation. Therefore, when someone mentioned Lu Hantian's identity, many people also understood. Boom, boom, boom. 18 stars revolved in the sky. Lu Hantian and Emperor Qin were extremely fast. The 2 of them constantly leaped between the stars like agile monkeys, extremely agile and vigorous. The forces produced by the 2 of them fighting were extremely terrifying, and they could cause the surrounding space to collapse. The battle between the 2 martial emperors was so terrifying that the people watching below were dumbfounded. The battle between the 2 of them was almost beyond their understanding. Every move could cause the surrounding space to collapse, forming a void. It faintly revealed a terrifying might that could shatter the heavens and the earth. They all knew that even peak heavenly venerables would be annihilated by the aftershocks of their battle if they got close to the 2 of them. There was no chance of survival. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 great Emperor Realm experts fought from the sky to the ground and from mid-air to the clouds. Terrifying explosions reverberated throughout the sky. The void was filled with black holes created by powerful energies. That night was destined to be a sleepless night in the imperial capital. Everyone in the imperial capital was awakened by the battle between the 2 great emperors. Everyone rushed out of their residences and raised their heads to look at the sky. Up there, 18 dazzling lights were constantly colliding, creating countless explosions. In the eyes of the martial artists in the imperial capital, the stars that night were so close to them. Those 18 stars were truly powerful stars that had descended from the heavens. They were extremely dazzling. This night was destined to be an extraordinary one. The deep darkness invaded, but in the depths of the 5 fingers, he discovered that he could not see the outline of the 5 fingers at all. Everything was pitch black without any light. Where is this? Zhuowen turned around with difficulty and looked at the boundless darkness around him. His eyes were filled with confusion. Ever since he fell into the abyss, he had been trapped in this deep darkness. Now that all the meridians in his body had been sealed by Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate, he could not mobilize the slightest bit of strength. He could only drift along in this deep darkness. "You're here?" A deep and unfamiliar voice came from the darkness. Then, it echoed endlessly in the darkness. It was as if thousands of people were shouting in Zhuowen's ears. This voice was very unfamiliar, but when it reached Zhuowen's ears, he felt a faint sense of familiarity. This sense of familiarity was inexplicable, but it could not be erased. For some reason, Zhuowen couldn't help but reply, "That's right. I'm here." After saying that, Zhuowen was a little shocked. Originally, he did not want to say this sentence. He wanted to ask who this person was, But now he blurted out this sentence. Two dark lights suddenly lit up in front of Zhuan. Staring at the two dark lights, Zhuan narrowed his eyes. He could faintly feel that these two dark lights were extremely extraordinary. "You're here. That's good." The deep voice sounded again. Immediately, the two dark lights quickly rushed towards Zhuan. Before Zhuan could even react, the two dark lights were already very close to him. Zhuan's eyes stared straight at the two dark lights in front of him. It's a pair of eyes. Staring at the dark light in front of him, Zhuan realized that the dark light was actually a pair of eyes. A pair of eyes the size of lanterns. Heavy breathing sounded in front of Zhuan. The owner of this pair of eyes was definitely a huge monster. "What exactly are you?" Looking at this pair of dark eyes, a trace of fear rose in Zhuan's heart. This was the fear of the unknown. "Accept me. I will take you away from this place." A deep voice sounded. At this moment, it was as deafening as muffled thunder. "Could accept him." Xiao Hei's voice also sounded in Zhuan's mind. "Xiao Hei, what exactly is this guy?" Zhuan did not expect that Xiao Hei would actually ask him to accept. He could not help but ask in confusion. "This is a nether dragon. A powerful dragon that can travel through darkness and death. Accept it and it will take you away from this void of darkness." Xiao Hei said again. Hearing this, Zhuan nodded. He never doubted Xiao Hei's words. Lifting his head, he stared at the pair of dark lights and said, "I accept." As soon as he said this, the pair of dark lights burst forth with an extremely blazing light. Unfortunately, this light was a dark light. The more blazing it was, the darker it appeared. A dragon's roar sounded. Soon after, Zhuan felt all the sealed meridians in his body collapse at this moment, and all the strength in his body was restored to its original state. Soon after, the sound of wind whistling sounded in his ears. Next, Zhuan discovered that his feet seemed to be on solid ground, as if he was being carried by something. Swoosh. Then, Zhuan's entire body was carried towards the top of the abyss. Its speed was so fast that Zhuan was left speechless. After Zhuan left the abyss, another pair of dark eyes appeared in the pitch-black void of nothingness. However, this pair of dark eyes was not as large as before. Instead, they were the size of an ordinary human. A figure was faintly discernible in the darkness. This figure was silently sitting cross-legged in the pitch-black darkness. His body was shackled by numerous black metal chains, and a sense of loneliness involuntarily rose in his heart. Clang. At this moment, the figure slowly stood up and looked up at Zhuan, who was leaving above. There was a trace of unknown emotion in his eyes. He muttered in a low voice, "So you have grown up. If Xiao knew, I don't know how happy she would be." Boom! 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 Above the imperial capital, Emperor Qing and Lu Hantian were engaged in a fierce battle. It was as if the heavens and earth were about to collapse. All the warriors did not dare to come within 100 miles of the battle. Once they came close, they would be seriously injured or even killed. A loud dragon's roar sounded from the collapsed dungeon, attracting the attention of countless warriors around. What's going on? Why is there a dragon's roar in the abyss of the dungeon? Could it be that there is someone in there? The dragon's roar continued to sound from the abyss, causing many warriors to be surprised. Their gazes were focused on the abyss. The 5 holy masters led by Zhang Tianzuan, Aoki and the other 2 holy masters, as well as Elder Shiwan and the other 2 holy masters, all noticed the dragon's roar coming from the abyss. Their expressions were different as their eyes flashed. "Is it Zhuan?" Zhang Tianzuan asked in a deep voice. "It's very likely. That kid has a dragon soul, so it's not surprising that he can emit a dragon's roar. But what makes me curious is, how did he come out from the 18th level?" Aoki's eyes flashed, revealing a trace of anticipation. If the person who came out from the abyss was really Zhuan, he would not let him go this time. He had to capture him. "The 8 of us will join forces and capture Zhuan. We can't make any mistakes this time." Zhang Tianzuan instructed the people behind him. The heavenly venerables behind him nodded. Whether it was the Azure Emperor's request or the collapse of the dungeon, all of this was related to Zhuan. Hence, they absolutely couldn't let Zhuan off. On the other hand, Elder Shiwan and the other two holy masters were delighted. They could also guess that the dragon's roar was most likely emitted by Jun. We have to be careful of Zhang Tianzuan and the rest. If this person is really Zhuan, Zhang Tianzuan and the rest will not let Zhuan go, Elder Shiwan suddenly said cautiously. Moyan Wushang nodded and agreed. Elder Shiwan is right. Zhang Tianzuan and the rest have been eyeing Zhuan covetously. If this person is really Zhuan, they will definitely take action. We have to be prepared. We can't let Zhang Tianzuan and the rest succeed. Sush. Just as Zhang Tianzuan and the rest were harboring evil intentions, a gust of wind swept out from the abyss. Then, everyone saw that it was a huge dragon that was a few hundred feet long that appeared above the abyss. The huge dragon was covered with black clouds and mist. Even the air that it exhaled from its nostrils was black. The dragon's eyes were especially dark and looked extremely creepy. On the head of the huge dragon, a figure stood proudly. The wind whistled and swept up the person's long hair. His clothes fluttered in the wind. This is the Nether Dragon? Looking at the huge black dragon that appeared in the sky, Zhang Tianzuan and the rest narrowed their eyes. They all recognized the fierce and powerful dragon. This person actually brought the Nether Dragon out from the 18th level? How is that possible? Did that person give it up on his own accord? Zhang Tianzuan frowned and said in shock. Zhang Tianzuan, what are you afraid of? We have 8 holy masters. How can we not be a match for the Nether Dragon? As long as we work together, we will definitely be able to take him down, Aoki suddenly said. Zhang Tianzuan nodded. They had 8 holy masters. Even if the Nether Dragon was present, they were not afraid. Chapter 865. White-browed dog swoosh. Empyrean Zi Yang shouted. He turned into an afterimage and shot straight at Zhuan. His speed soared to the extreme. Following Zhang Tianzuan's action, Aoki and the other holy masters followed him without hesitation. They wanted to join forces and take down Zhuan. Let's do it and stop them. Elder Shiwan shouted and took the lead. His target was Aoki and black and white behind him. Meng Shi and Moyan Wushang were not to be outdone. They turned into 2 shadows and flew out. Meng Shi stood in front of Zhang Tianzuan and spat out a golden primordial force. He threw out a punch and a tiger's roar sounded. Zhang Tianzuan's face changed. He waved his hands and a purple sun rose to meet the attack. Boom! A terrifying explosion resounded through the sky. Zhang Tianzuan and Meng Shi retreated a dozen steps and looked at each other with a grave look in their eyes. At the same time, Elder Shiwan stretched out his skinny palm and pressed it down. Suddenly, a terrifying sound came from the empty space behind him. Then, an ear-piercing rumble sounded and a transparent mountain formed in the empty space. This illusory and transparent mountain was formed purely by mental energy. Waves of mental energy runes continuously flickered and circulated on the surface of the mountain. It looked extremely mysterious and profound. Mountain deity transformation. Elder Shiwan shouted coldly. The terrifying mountain fell from the empty space and swept up numerous hurricanes. It crushed down on Aoki and the other 2. Black and white. Let's attack together and destroy the mountain. Looking at Elder Shiwan attacking them, Aoki squinted his eyes and looked cold. He knew how terrifying Elder Shiwan was. If they were to fight one-on-one, he would not be a match for Elder Shiwan. Hence, Aoki could only rely on Black and White's power to fight against Elder Shiwan. Millennium Aoki. Black and White Dragons. Without any hesitation, Black and White formed a seal with both hands and immediately summoned their Black and White dragon souls. 2 huge dragons, one black and one white, roared towards the sky and charged towards the sky. At the same time, Aoki also released his own armor soul. A towering tree grew out of the void behind him. Countless lush vines grew out, turning into a sea of green that covered the sky, following behind the black and white dragons. Rumble. When the 2 collided, a frightening yuan power wave spread outwards, causing the surrounding space to show traces of cracks and collapse. For a moment, they were in a deadlock in the air. Moyan Wushang appeared above Celestial Master Guanghan, Celestial Master Xie, Celestial Master Huang Jiao, and Celestial Master Bai Mei. She smiled and said, "If you want to go to Zhuan, you'll have to go through me first." "Miss Wushang, you want to fight against 4 of us? Aren't you exaggerating?" "If we accidentally hurt you, don't blame us," Celestial Master Bai Mei said coldly. Although the strength of these 4 heavenly venerables was not comparable to heavenly venerables like heavenly venerables Ziyang and Qing Mu, they were still heavenly venerables after all. If they joined forces, they would probably be able to fight against a peak heavenly venerate powerhouse. "I'm not exaggerating, you're exaggerating." Moyan Wushang smiled and waved her hand. A huge drum quietly floated behind Moyan Wushang. Wisps of sound waves were faintly revealed. It was actually the faint sound of a war drum. Morning bell and evening drum. Celestial Master Huang Jiao stared at the drum behind Moyan Wushang and his gaze suddenly became dignified. The 4 of them knew about morning bell and evening drum. Moyan Wushang had found it in a relic. It was said that it had the power of a royal spiritual treasure and was extremely terrifying. Boom! After revealing morning bell and evening drum, an extremely terrifying aura burst out from Moyan Wushang's body. Countless sounds of zither and drum followed this aura and spread in the air. Many warriors in the surroundings were intoxicated when they heard the sound of the zither that spread with the aura. Their eyes were blurred and some were unable to extricate themselves. The sound of the zither actually had the effect of seducing people's souls. "Peak Celestial Master? You're actually a peak Celestial Master? How can you be so strong?" Celestial Master Huang Jiao and the other 3 Celestial Masters were dignified Celestial Masters. Naturally, they would not be intoxicated by the decadent sound that Moyan Wushang unintentionally emitted. Instead, they all revealed astonished expressions. Moyan Wushang's origin was mysterious. He suddenly appeared in Imperial Capital and became famous in Imperial Capital because of his exquisite zither playing skills. Moreover, Emperor Qing was very polite to Moyan Wushang back then. All of this indicated that Moyan Wushang was extraordinary. Today, when Moyan Wushang burst out with his true strength, the 4 Celestial Masters were shocked. Moyan Wushang looked like he was only a few years old. At most, he was about the same age as Zhuo Wen. However, his cultivation realm was so much more terrifying than Zhuo Wen's. The woman in front of him was an even more monstrous genius than Zhuo Wen. "Cut the crap. I've said it before. As long as I'm here, you won't even be able to touch Zhuan." The corners of Moyan Wushang's mouth curled up slightly. Her jade-like hand gently tapped on the drum. A thunderous sound resounded and an invisible sound wave spread out. This sound wave contained an extremely powerful killing intent. It was as if they were on a drum platform in a battlefield and countless soldiers were shouting to kill. Feeling the horror of the spreading sound wave, Celestial Master Huang Jiao and the other 3 Celestial Masters' faces changed slightly. They all used their respective armor souls. For a moment, 4 different colored forces swept out and rushed toward the sound wave. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the combined attacks of the 4 Celestial Masters were evenly matched with Moyan Wushang's sound wave. No one was giving way to the other. So strong. Isn't that Lady Moyan Wushang from Drunk Spring Pavilion? How can she be so strong? She's resisting the attacks of 4 Celestial Masters by herself. How terrifying. The surrounding people were also shocked, especially Moyan Wushang. Fighting 4 Celestial Masters by herself was indeed a feat that could easily shock people. On top of the Nether Dragon, Zhuowen's eyes were also filled with shock. Moyan Wushang's strength had somewhat exceeded his expectations. In the beginning, because Moyan Wushang had a concealment technique, he could not see through Moyan Wushang's true cultivation. However, now that this woman suddenly displayed the cultivation of a peak Celestial Master, it really shocked him. She's indeed someone from the Divine Academy. She's not much older than me, but her cultivation far surpasses mine. Zhuan shook his head bitterly. He finally understood what it meant to say that there was always someone better. In the Qing Xian Empire, Zhuowen's talent and cultivation might be at the top of the younger generation. If Zhuowen's talent was placed in the entire Eastern Land or even the entire Heavenly Armor continent, it might not even be worth mentioning. After all, the Qing Xian Empire was just a small place in the Eastern Land. However, Thuan did not feel inferior because of this. Instead, he was filled with anticipation and hope. This continent was still very big and he, Thuan, still had a long way to go. Although this road might be full of thorns, Thuan could walk on with a smile. This was because he had a heart that tirelessly pursued strength. This heart gave him the belief to continuously pursue martial arts. Slowly landing on the ground beside the huge pit, the huge nether dragon calmly glanced at Thuan. It let out a loud roar and once again dived into the abyss and disappeared. Nether dragon? Who exactly is in that abyss? Zhuan could feel that the one talking to him was not the nether dragon, but a human. Moreover, it was a very powerful human. Zhuan also realized that the nether dragon's movements within 10 miles of the abyss were as if there was a layer of imprisonment around it that prevented the nether dragon from using its power. However, this thought only appeared in Zhuan's mind for a moment. His gaze was attracted by the battle in the sky. At the highest point, 18 stars were rumbling. The battle between the Azure Emperor and Lu Hantian had reached its climax. Between the two of them, they could tear the entire space apart. High up in the sky, the originally stable space was now riddled with holes due to the battle between the two of them. Black holes were spreading and wreaking havoc. It looked extremely terrifying. Although the battle between the Azure Emperor and Lu Hantian had reached its climax, it would take a while for the victor to be decided. However, Thuan was worried. After all, the Azure Emperor had advanced to the Emperor realm for a long time, while Lu Hantian had just advanced to the Emperor realm. There was still a certain gap between the two of them. Although it might not be obvious now, as time passed, the gap between the two of them would most likely be revealed. However, this was a battle between two Emperor realm experts. Zhuan was only at the Sovereign realm. There was no way he could interfere. He could only watch helplessly. The battle between the Celestial Masters was also evenly matched. Among them, the battle between Meng Shi and Xiang Tianzuan was close to a physical collision. It was extremely intense. Elder Shiwan was even more terrifying. He had actually suppressed Aoki and the other two by himself. On the other hand, although Moyan Wushang had relied on the Morning Bell and Evening Drum to suppress the 4 Celestial Masters, the Morning Bell and Evening Drum was an offensive royal spiritual treasure. It consumed a lot of his origin energy. Moyan Wushang's bright forehead had already started to sweat. It was very difficult for him to suppress it now. Miss Wushang, let the weakest Celestial Master, White Brow, come here. I'll deal with him. Zhuan's eyes flickered as he suddenly laughed. He took a step forward and rushed toward Moyan Wushang. His voice was like rolling thunder. This damned bastard. White-brow Celestial Master's veins popped out when he heard Zhuan's words. His eyes were filled with anger. Zhuan was too unkind. He actually dared to humiliate White-brow Celestial Master in front of everyone. As the weakest of the 5 Celestial Masters, White-brow Celestial Master hated it when others said that he was the weakest. However, not only did Zhuan say that, but he also shouted it so loudly without restraint. How could White-brow Celestial Master show his face? Zhuan, are you okay? White-brow Celestial Master is a Celestial Master after all, Moyan Wushang said worriedly. Don't worry. White-brow Celestial Master is at his peak now. It took him a lot of effort to capture me. Now that he has lost an arm, his strength has dropped too much. I'm afraid he might not be my match. Just let him go. Chapter 866. The power of real materialization. Moyan Wushang's beautiful eyes flashed. Just as Zhuan had said, Heavenly Master Whitebrow's arm had been cut off by the one on the 18th level. Originally, Heavenly Master Whitebrow should have been at the initial stage of the Heavenly Master realm. Now, his strength had dropped by almost 30 to 40%, which was equivalent to a warrior at the peak of the Golden Venerate realm. Then be careful. Moyan Wushang nodded. With a wave of her hand, the sound wave from the Morning Bell and Evening Drum bounced out. Heavenly Master Whitebrow was mercilessly thrown out. With Heavenly Master Whitebrow's withdrawal, Moyan Wushang felt a lot more relaxed. Now, using the Morning Bell and Evening Drum to deal with Heavenly Master Yellowbone, Heavenly Master Sunset Moon, and Heavenly Master Guanghan was more than enough. Little bastard. I'm going to skin you, pull out your tendons, and grind your bones to dust. I'm going to make you wish you were dead. As soon as he was released, Heavenly Master Whitebrow's cold eyes stared at Zhuan as if he was staring at his prey. Zhuan laughed. He stared at Heavenly Master Whitebrow with ridicule and said, "You have lost an arm. Do you really have the strength to capture me and torture me? Even if my strength is damaged, you're just a sovereign realm warrior. What qualifications do you have to compare with me?" The Whitebrow Heavenly Sovereign snorted coldly. He flew toward Zhuowen like a great rock with its wings spread. Milky white yuan power spurted out and turned into a huge palm that slammed toward Zhuowen. That young man is Zhuowen? Wasn't Zhuowen rumored to be missing? Why did he appear from the abyss of the dungeon? Countless warriors around the dungeon also noticed Yun. At this moment, Yun had already returned to his original appearance. Many people still remembered his shocking actions in the throne room. Therefore, when Zhuan appeared, many warriors recognized him. However, what surprised them was that Zhuan actually dared to provoke the Whitebrow Heavenly Sovereign as soon as he came out. Although Zhuowen's aura had actually reached the sovereign realm and shocked many people, wasn't he courting death by provoking a heavenly sovereign with such a cultivation level? Although many people could see that the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate's aura had weakened significantly after losing an arm, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even a one-armed Heavenly Venerate was not someone a supreme being could challenge. Zhuowen's gaze turned cold as he stared at the palm of yuan power that was constantly approaching him. He reached out with his hand and retrieved a blood spear. With a flick of the spear's tip, the sea of blood roiled. Blood sea overflowing heaven. With a low shout, Zhuowen's figure moved along with the blood spear. His entire person merged into the sea of blood. His figure was faintly discernible, like a ghost. Rumble! The sea of blood instantly collided with the yuan power palm. After which, the two of them froze in midair and did not move at all. Kill! Zhuowen suddenly drilled out of the sea of blood. With a wave of his blood spear, the sea of blood parted to form a bloody path. Zhuowen then swung his long spear. Layers upon layers of power erupted and heavily bombarded the elemental energy palm. In an instant, the yuan power palm shattered into countless pieces. Zhuowen continued to rush towards the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate like a hot knife through butter. The Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate's gaze was gloomy. With a stomp of his foot, he actually took the initiative to retreat, landing dozens of meters away. Rumble! The instant the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate retreated, Zhuowen had already arrived at the place where he was previously standing. With a loud bang, the ground was smashed into a huge crater by a terrifying force. Slowly walking out of the huge crater, Zhuowen straightened his back. Holding the blood spear in his hand, he stared at the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate indifferently. The corners of his mouth revealed a hint of a faintly discernible smile as he said, "The yuan power palm can't even withstand a single blow. Under my attack, you were the first to retreat. Worthy of being an Empyrean powerhouse." Zhuowen's slightly mocking words caused the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate's face to turn stiff. His gaze was gloomy to the extreme. If he was facing a martial artist of the same level just now, retreating was an extremely normal thing. Unfortunately, the one he faced was Zhuowen, a junior whose cultivation was 2 levels lower than his. He actually retreated. This had a different flavor in other people's eyes. Sure enough, the moment Zhuowen's words came out, quite a number of people's gazes gathered on the Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate. There were even quite a few gazes that had mocking looks that were even denser than Zhuowen's. A series of boos sounded out from the surroundings. "Sharp-tongued little bastard. What else can you do apart from talking nonsense?" The Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate said with a cold snort. But Zhuowen snickered and said, "An exalted Heavenly Venerate is actually finding excuses too? Did I break your elemental energy palm? Did you retreat just now?" Interrogating voices sounded out. The Whitebrow Heavenly Venerate's brows furrowed slightly, but he fell into a rare silence. "Then what nonsense am I spouting? Could it be that what I said isn't the truth?" Zhuowen said with a cold sneer. "This seat won't stoop to your level. Either way, you're also someone who's about to see the coffin." The white-brow heavenly venerate did not wish to talk too much with Jun. His left hand needed seals. A white light bloomed between his eyebrows. Following that, a swift and fierce eagle cry sounded out. Following that, the white-brow heavenly venerate used his own armor soul, the white-brow sparrow hawk. However, the white-brow sparrow hawk that the white-brow heavenly venerate summoned this time, regardless of whether it was the size or aura, it was much weaker than last time. Zhuan knew that it probably had something to do with the white-brow heavenly venerate's severed arm being injured. Little bastard. This time, you won't be as lucky as last time. Die for me. The white-brow heavenly venerate roared and leaped up onto the white-brow sparrow hawk's body. Then, his divine thought controlled the white-brow sparrow hawk to charge at Zhuan. Looking at the white-brow sparrow hawk flying straight towards him, Zhuan's gaze became extremely solemn. Last time, he had been put in an extremely sorry state by the white-brow heavenly venerate because of this white-brow heavenly venerate. If it weren't for someone in the ice hell abyss who had intervened, he would probably have been a prisoner of the white-brow heavenly venerate. Although the white-brow heavenly venerate's strength had been greatly reduced and the white-brow sparrow hawk's strength was much weaker than before, Zhuan still did not have much confidence in facing it. The white-brow sparrow hawk was extremely fast and arrived in front of Zhuan in an instant. Naturally, Zhuan would not sit still and wait for death. He kneaded his hands together and 3 pairs of lightning wings grew out of his back. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a lightning shadow and narrowly avoided the white-brow sparrow hawk's attack. So fast! Looking at the white-brow sparrow hawk that brushed past him, Zhuan's gaze became even more solemn. At the same time, he did not hesitate to materialize his dragon soul. Countless wisps of black mist covered his entire body as he entered his dragon-man state. At the same time, another whistling sound rang out. The white-brow sparrow hawk had actually turned around and attacked again at an extremely fast and fierce speed. Zhuan coldly snorted. The black dragon scales on his hands continuously squirmed and turned into a pair of cold dragon claws. Then, Zhuan dragged his claws and attacked the white-brow sparrow hawk in front of him like 2 dragons swallowing a pearl. Dragon strangle? The white-brow sparrow hawk was not to be outdone. Its pair of eagle claws also fiercely struck out, sweeping up gusts of wind. Boom! The two immediately separated upon contact. Zhuan groaned and retreated dozens of steps. The web between his thumb and forefinger was numb and trembling slightly. The white-brow sparrow hawk's body merely swayed and charged towards him again. Zhuan, you're dead for sure. So what if my cultivation is damaged? You're still no match for me. When I capture you, I'll let you experience a fate worse than death. The white-brow Empyrean sovereign's pleased laughter rang out. He stared fixedly at the approaching Zhuan, an unbridled clamor on his face. Shit! The white-brow sparrow hawk is too fast, it's not easy to dodge. Zhuan's pupils shrank as he watched the white-brow sparrow hawk approach. He wanted to dodge, but his entire body was numb from the previous collision, making it difficult for him to move. Bang! The white-brow sparrow hawk viciously slammed into Zhuan's body. Soon after, Zhuan plummeted from the sky like a meteor and smashed into the ground. Humph! As expected, you're just a little brat who only knows how to flaunt his sharp tongue. If not for Emperor Qing's orders, I would have killed you several times over. The white-brow Empyrean sovereign snickered coldly. Soon after, he patted the white-brow sparrow hawk beneath him. The latter let out a resounding cry and suddenly swooped down. Its target was Zhuan, who was in the giant pit. Zhuan. Elder Xiwan and Moyan Wushang could see the situation on Zhuan's side. Although the two of them could easily deal with their opponents, it was impossible for them to completely break away from the battle to rescue Zhuan. Moreover, it was too late. After all, the white-brow sparrow hawk was too fast. Cough, cough, cough. In the deep pit, Zhuan struggled to get up. When he saw the white-brow sparrow hawk rushing towards him, his pupils shrank and his face became extremely gloomy. Give me control of your body temporarily. Now that you can partially materialize this dragon lord, if you don't resist, this dragon lord can use part of your body's power. Seeing the white-brow sparrow hawk getting closer and closer, Zhuan was a little flustered. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out. Let you control my body? Sure. Hearing this, Zhuan did not hesitate and gave control of his body to Xiao Hei. Then, he closed his eyes and his consciousness sank into his mind. When Zhuan opened his eyes again, his pupils had turned into a dark gold color. Then, Zhuan stomped his feet and a gust of energy flew out. His entire body was like a spring as he retreated out of the huge pit. Boom! At the moment when Zhuan retreated, the white-brow sparrow hawk's attack missed. It directly crashed into the deep pit, stirring up clouds of dust and obscuring one's vision. Swoosh! Another eagle cry rang out. The wind whistled and the dust dispersed. The white-brow sparrow hawk rushed out and flew toward Zhuan again. Little bastard! Let's see where you can escape to. The white-brow heavenly master stood on the white-brow sparrow hawk and looked coldly at Zhuan. At this moment, Zhuan did not care about white-brow heavenly master. Instead, he muttered to himself indifferently, Take a good look. This dragon lord's materialization is not like yours, which only uses brute force. You have never discovered the true power of materialization. With that, Zhuan stomped his feet and a terrifying power poured out. Dense cracks appeared on the ground and it looked extremely ferocious. Then Zhuan turned into a shadow and his speed was many times faster than before. Whoosh! Chapter 867. Seeking Death. Swoosh! The white-browed sparrow hawk let out a miserable shriek. It could clearly feel Zhuowen's sharp elbow piercing its abdomen. The pain caused the white-browed sparrow hawk to sway. The white-browed heavenly master, who was standing on the white-browed sparrow hawk, staggered a few times and almost fell. Fortunately, he had rich battle experience. Yuan power spurted out from his right palm and used the recoil to stabilize his body. That little bastard, the white-browed heavenly master gritted his teeth. He had also noticed Zhuan, who was attached to the white-browed sparrow hawk's abdomen. With a loud roar, he threw out his right palm in an attempt to knock Zhuan down. Zhuan sneered and exerted force with his elbow. With a piercing sound, his sharp elbow pierced through the white-browed sparrow hawk's abdomen. With a leap, Zhuan free fell and landed on the ground, dodging the white-browed heavenly master's attack. Swoosh! The white-browed sparrow hawk let out another miserable shriek. Its huge body swayed like a drunkard. A wound that was several feet long had appeared on its lower abdomen. The organs in its abdomen spilled out from the sky along with fresh blood. Boom! Zhuan landed on the ground. His dark golden eyes were filled with cruelty. He licked his lips and muttered to himself, Kid! These bone spikes in the dragon human form are the sharpest weapons in the world. Not only do you not use them in battle, you even foolishly used your fists to fight. Aren't you courting death? In his sea of consciousness, Zhuowen's consciousness also saw this scene and a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. Xiao Hei was right. When he was in the dragon human form, he did not make use of the bone spikes on his scales. Instead, he used his fists to smash them. That was indeed an extremely foolish way of fighting. Xiao Hei, since you can completely control my body when the armor spirit is materialized and use the full power of the dragon human form, why didn't you do anything when I was captured by the white-browed heavenly master? Zhuan could not help but ask in a depressed manner when he recalled being completely suppressed by the white-browed heavenly master and even having his meridians sealed. Do you think this dragon lord wants to control your body? Now that I'm borrowing your body, every attack is consuming my essence energy. Furthermore, this dragon lord could already tell that the powerhouse in the abyss was going to make a move, so I didn't do anything unnecessary. Xiao Hei snorted. I see. Zhuan nodded and continued to ask, Who is that person in the abyss? Why did he save me? I don't know about that either. But that person had a nether dragon and was very strong. He should be a descendant of the Ryuka. Furthermore, you're also a descendant of the Ryuka bloodline. He probably saved you because you're from the same clan. Xiao Hei said uncertainly. Is he also a Ryuka descendant? Speaking of this, Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat. Glan Haohai had once told him that his father, Zhuo Xiaotian, had also been captured by the Azure Emperor, and the person imprisoned on the 18th floor of the dungeon just so happened to be a dragon soul cultivator. Could this person be his father, Zhuo Xiaotian? Xiaohei, we have to enter the abyss again. I suspect that that person is my father, Zhuo Xiaotian, who went missing 20 years ago. Even if that person isn't him, he might know something about my father. Zhuowen said in a low voice. Alright, but let's get rid of this old thing first. Xiaohei replied in agreement. He took a step forward and his entire body turned into an afterimage as he rushed towards the wailing white-browed sparrow hawk. Swoosh! In midair, the white-browed hawk also noticed Zhuowen flying towards it. With a shrill cry, it spread its wings and tried to escape. Trying to escape? Do you think that's possible? Xiaohei smiled cruelly. His hands formed a seal, and 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled. At the same time, a black mist appeared and covered the 3 pairs of lightning wings, transforming them into 3 pairs of extremely large dragon wings. Seeing Xiaohei skillfully controlling his body and forming a seal, Zhuowen, who was in his knowledge sea, was filled with depression. Why did he realize that Xiaohei was even more proficient in using his body than he was? With 3 pairs of dragon wings spread, Xiaohei's speed reached the extreme. In an instant he caught up with the white-browed hawk, and a shadow once again reached the white-browed hawk's abdomen. Following that, Xiaohei unceremoniously jabbed his elbow. With a piercing sound, the white-browed hawk's abdomen was cut open, leaving a wound that was several feet long. Xiaohei's speed was too fast. Every time he flashed past, he would cause a huge wound on the white-browed hawk's abdomen. In an instant, the entire sky was filled with the white-browed hawk's blood. Swoosh! Finally, the white-browed hawk let out a sorrowful cry. Due to the excessive blood loss, it turned into a white light and drilled into the white-browed heavenly venerate's forehead. At this moment, the white-browed heavenly venerate stomped his feet and retreated continuously. His gaze was extremely gloomy. He never expected that the white-browed hawk would be defeated just like that. Clearly, the white-browed hawk was suppressing Zhuowen at the beginning. How did Zhuowen suddenly become so powerful and terrifying? It was as if he had become a different person. Silently floating in the air, Xiaohei's dark golden eyes stared intently at the white-browed heavenly venerate. He grinned and said, "Old dog, didn't you want me to suffer a fate worse than death? Why are you retreating now?" "Right now I, Zhuowen, am standing right here, begging for my death. If you have the ability, then let me watch you die." "I, Zhuowen, am standing right here, begging for my death." The moment these words came out, there was an uproar in the surroundings. This Zhuowen was really arrogant. He was actually standing there, begging for his death. This sentence really made everyone's jaws drop. Zhuowen, who was in the sea of consciousness, held his forehead with his right hand as black lines appeared on his forehead. This Xiaohei was really too much of a troublemaker. Even the words, begging for death, were spoken in such a domineering manner. Zhuowen felt that his illustrious reputation would probably be completely disgraced by Xiaohei today. The white-browed heavenly venerate's pupils shrank slightly. However, he did not step forward again. Instead, he cautiously retreated. His gaze was fixed on Zhuowen, as if he was guarding against a sudden attack from Zhuowen. As expected of the white-browed heavenly venerate, "Even I am standing right in front of you, begging for my death. Old dog, not only are you not moving forward, you are even retreating." The white-browed heavenly venerate's reputation is indeed well-deserved. Zhuowen suddenly sneered. The white-browed heavenly venerate's face darkened when he heard these words. He said coldly, "Despicable person. You sneak-attacked my armored soul white-browed hawk first. Now, you are still hooting here. Don't you feel ashamed?" "Ashamed? What is that?" "I, Zhuowen, have always been shameless. Moreover, what I like to do the most is to beat dogs, especially old dogs." After boasting shamelessly, Xiaohei stomped his feet. With the help of his dragon wings, he turned into countless afterimages and rushed towards the white-browed heavenly venerate. However, Zhuowen's face twitched in the sea of consciousness, especially when he heard Xiaohei say, "I, Zhuowen, have always been shameless." Zhuowen's mood was like thousands of grass mud horses galloping past. He wished that he could strangle Xiaohei to death. Seeing Zhuowen rushing straight towards him, The white-browed heavenly venerate's eyes surged with killing intent. He opened his hands and the yuan power in his body surged out. Immediately, the space around him shattered. From the cracks in the shattered space, blobs of green blood continuously gushed out. Heaven and earth jade blood, reincarnation Esher. An endless amount of heaven and earth jade blood descended from the void and blocked in front of Xiao He. It was like a swamp, causing Xiao He's speed to decrease sharply. Moreover, the corrosive power of the heaven and earth jade blood was extremely terrifying. However, the defense of the Dragon Man state was very terrifying. The corrosive power of the heaven and earth jade blood was basically blocked by the dragon scales. It's not that easy to stop this dragon lord. Xiao He snorted coldly. An ink-black fog surrounded his body. Suddenly, he completely ignored the obstruction of the endless heaven and earth jade blood and broke through the waves. Green blood demon flame, burn for me. Seeing that the heaven and earth jade blood was ineffective against Zhuan, the white-browed heavenly venerate's eyes turned even colder. He formed a seal with both hands and the endless heaven and earth jade blood surrounding Xiao He's body all burned up, turning into dark green flames. A terrifying temperature attacked, causing the surrounding space to distort. Humph! Dragon scale guard. Xiao He snorted coldly. The dark black dragon scales all over his body emitted an extremely terrifying dark light. Then, illusory dragon scales surrounded Xiao He like stars in the sky. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The defensive power of these illusory dragon scales was extremely terrifying. The surging green blood demon flame could not break through the defense of these illusory dragon scales at all. How is this possible? How did Zhuowen's strength increase so much? White-browed heavenly venerate finally lost his composure when he saw that the green blood demon flame could not do anything to Xiao He. During the ice snow prison break, Zhuan was basically completely suppressed by him and was even captured by him. However, now Zhuan seemed to have changed into a different person. Both his attack and defense had become so abnormal. Swoosh! Xiao He arrived in front of white-browed heavenly venerate in an instant. He stretched out his right hand, which was covered in dragon scales, and the moment it stretched out, it turned into a huge dragon claw and blasted towards white-browed heavenly venerate. White-browed heavenly venerate screamed and waved his sleeves. He used all the yuan power in his body to block Zhuowen's dragon claw. Dragon strangle? Xiao He's voice became extremely cold. The pitch-black light in his dragon claw became even more intense. The yuan power defense that white-browed heavenly venerate blasted out was extremely weak and broke in an instant. Puchi! White-browed heavenly venerate spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. Just as he was about to make use of the momentum to escape, a black figure blocked his way. Xiao He stretched out his right hand and grabbed white-browed heavenly venerate's neck. He then stood in the void and raised white-browed heavenly venerate high up. He then faced white-browed heavenly venerate's face and shouted, "White-browed heavenly venerate, stand here and beg for death again." White-browed heavenly venerate rolled his eyes and gritted his teeth. Why did Zhuowen suddenly become so crazy? White-browed heavenly venerate wasn't the only one who felt this way. Many of the surrounding cultivators also felt that Zhuowen was somewhat different from the rest. It felt like he wouldn't rest until he shocked everyone to death with his words. However, Zhuowen's sudden outburst that left white-browed heavenly venerate with no chance of retaliating left a deep impression in everyone's hearts. It was indeed a little shocking that a supremacy could actually defeat a heavenly venerate powerhouse. Chapter 868. The cocky Xiao He in his sea of consciousness. One saw that Xiao He was about to go crazy again and hurriedly urged, "Xiao He, quickly finish off this white-brow heavenly master." Hearing this, Xiao He also knew that he had lost his composure. He coughed a few times and said to the white-brow heavenly master smugly, "I am standing here and begging for death, but you won't let me die. Then I have no choice but to let you die." As he spoke, Xiao He exerted force in his right palm. The white-brow heavenly master did not even make a sound. His neck bent and he stopped breathing. At the same time, Xiao He spat out yuan power and blasted the white-brow heavenly master's lower abdomen. He pulled out his right hand and a ball of light appeared in his hand. This ball of light was in the shape of a small person. From its outline, it was extremely similar to the white-brow heavenly master. It was the white-brow heavenly master's nascent soul. Yuan, you have already killed my physical body. Don't tell me you want to destroy my nascent soul? Don't push your luck. The white-brow heavenly master's eyes were filled with fear as he shrieked. Don't worry. The nascent soul of a heavenly master expert is very beneficial. How can I bear to destroy you? Xiao He laughed sinisterly. He formed a seal with both hands and quickly tapped the white-brow heavenly master's nascent soul dozens of times. Then, the white-brow heavenly master's nascent soul collapsed in Xiao He's palm. You actually sealed me. Yuan, you bastard. What are you trying to do? The white-brow heavenly master's nascent soul could not move at all. He knew that Xiao He had sealed him and could not help but cry out. Noisy! Just get lost into the spirit ring. Xiao He waved his hand impatiently and stuffed the white-brow heavenly master, who was still cursing, into the spirit ring. Then, he transmitted his voice to Zhuowen in his sea of consciousness. Kid! White-brow heavenly venerable's nascent soul is good stuff. If you absorb the power of this nascent soul, it can speed up your cultivation. Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard this. Xiao He was right. The yuanying of a heavenly venerate was the essence of a heavenly venerate. The amount of energy it contained was much greater than that of a golden venerate. However, now was not a good time to absorb the power of the nascent soul, so Zhuowen did not plan to absorb the power of the nascent soul of the white-brow heavenly master. Xiao He was also very considerate. She sealed the power of the white-brow heavenly master and stored it in her spirit ring. She would find an opportunity to absorb it in the future. Empyrean Whitebrow is dead? He was actually killed by Zhuowen. Even his nascent soul was sealed and taken away by Zhuowen. Seeing Zhuowen's series of actions, many of the surrounding people were stunned. Many of them were so shocked that their mouths were wide open. Ziyang Tianzuan, who was fighting fiercely with Meng Shi, also noticed Zhuowen's battle. When he saw Zhuowen seal the nascent soul of the white-brow heavenly master, he was stunned. Meng Shi seized the opportunity and punched him in the chest. Ziyang Tianzuan retreated dozens of meters away. His face was as pale as snow and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He looked past Meng Shi and stared coldly at Tun. You killed Whitebrow? Xiao He curled her lips and said indifferently, Not only did I kill Whitebrow, but I also killed your remaining heavenly venerates. With that, Xiao He stomped her feet and 3 pairs of dragon wings unfolded on her back. Her speed soared to the extreme. She was actually heading towards the battle between Moyan Wushang and heavenly venerable Huang Jiao. How dare you! Ziyang Tianzuan shouted angrily. He stomped his feet and wanted to chase after Zhuowen. However, before he could take more than a few steps, Meng Shi's sturdy body blocked his way. Ziyang Tianzuan, don't forget that your opponent is me. Meng Shi glanced at Zhuowen, who was leaving behind him. He was also moved. Zhuowen's talent and strength were somewhat beyond his expectations. A mere supreme being was able to kill an initial heavenly venerable expert. Zhuowen's monstrous level was not inferior to the monstrous geniuses in the outer court. If this kid can successfully join our outer court, I'm afraid he'll make those fellows feel threatened. Thinking of this, Meng Shi smiled. Meng Shi, get out of my way. Ziyang Tianzuan shouted angrily. An even more terrifying aura burst out from his body. Behind him, a purple blazing sun appeared. In addition to the purple blazing sun from before, Ziyang Tianzuan now had 2 Ziyang halos floating behind him. They looked extremely dazzling and scorching. It seems that your Ziyang cultivation technique is not bad. Unfortunately, do you think that you can defeat me with this? You're looking down on me. Meng Shi laughed loudly. He stomped his feet and countless energies swirled in the air. His golden hair danced in the air, making him look like a high-spirited lion king. Golden Lion Spiritual Wheel. With a low roar, the energy around Meng Shi's body became even more intense. Countless energy surged up and formed an upside-down waterfall. Then, Mangshi raised both of his hands. Golden origin energy shot out from his palms. It was like countless rays of golden light shooting out. Countless lion shadows appeared in the sky above him. Moyan Wushang, Huang Jiao Celestial Master, Guanghan Celestial Master, and Xia Celestial Master naturally noticed the death of Whitebrow Celestial Master. In addition to shock, there was more fear in their eyes. Moyan Wushang alone had already exhausted the three of them. If Zhuan joined in, they were afraid that they would soon be defeated. In the past, they might not have cared too much. However, after witnessing Zhuan kill Whitebrow Celestial Master, they had a new estimation of Zhuan's strength. If Zhuan really joined in, they would definitely be defeated. Guanghan Xia, if we continue to fight like this, we will definitely be annihilated. It's better to split up and fight for our lives. Huang Jiao Celestial Master suddenly transmitted his voice to Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master. Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master's eyes flickered. They replied, "You're right, Huang Jiao Celestial Master. If we don't want to be annihilated, we have to split up and escape before Zhuan arrives. Let's use all our strength to break Moyan Wushang. Only then will we have a chance to escape." Huang Jiao Celestial Master's eyes flickered as he spoke solemnly. Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master nodded and silently gathered their strength. Then, Huang Jiao Celestial Master shouted, "Let's break Moyan Wushang together." As soon as he said that, Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master both shouted softly and used their strongest moves. Their palms burst out with their strongest attacks. However, Huang Jiao Celestial Master took a step and quickly fled into the distance when the two attacked at the same time. Huang Jiao Celestial Master had used Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master as scapegoats while he took the opportunity to escape. Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master also noticed that Huang Jiao Celestial Master had fled behind them. Their faces were filled with shock and anger. However, they had already released their strongest attacks and couldn't withdraw them. They could only continue to attack Moyan Wushang. Moyan Wushang's beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. His jade-like hands quickly struck the morning bell and evening drum 10 times in a row. The 10 sound waves overlapped in an instant, causing the impact of the sound waves to reach an unprecedented peak. Puchi. Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master spat out a mouthful of blood after being hit by the overlapped sound waves. Their expressions became extremely dispirited and dejected. Huang Jiao Celestial Master is really despicable. After severely injuring Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master, Moyan Wushang wanted to intercept Huang Jiao Celestial Master. However, he couldn't find any trace of Huang Jiao Celestial Master. Huang Jiao Celestial Master's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already slipped away. At this moment, Xiao He had also come to Moyan Wushang's side. Naturally, Xiao He had seen what Huang Jiao Celestial Master had done just now. "Dun, what do you plan to do with these two people?" Moyan Wushang turned to look at Zhuan and inquired. Xiao He didn't say much. He directly swept out and mercilessly killed Guanghan Celestial Master and Xia Celestial Master. Of course, the two Celestial Masters' nascent souls were sealed by Xiao He and thrown into the spiritual ring. Looking at the decisive Zhuan in front of him, Moyan Wushang raised his eyebrows. He always felt that the current Zhuan was like a different person. His style of doing things was completely different from before. If Moyan Wushang knew that the one controlling Zhuan's body now wasn't Zhuan himself, but Xiao He, who knew how he would feel? In the sea of consciousness, Zhuan had already covered his face with both hands. This Xiao He really didn't understand the ways of the world. Moyan Wushang was asking for its opinion. This guy not only killed two Celestial Masters in front of Moyan Wushang, but also put their nascent souls into the spiritual ring as if it was a matter of course. How thick did one's face have to be to do this without batting an eyelid? It was a matter of course. Black and white. Let's go. Aoki had already noticed that the battle situation was not right. His eyes flashed, and he took out a green talisman from his arms. He suddenly crushed it, and a mass of green light wrapped around him and black and white. In an instant, they disappeared. It's actually a teleportation talisman. This Aoki seems to have a lot of wealth. Elder Xuan narrowed his eyes and stared at Aoki, who had disappeared. He had to give up and return to Zhuan and Moyan Wushang's side. Zhuan, Moyan Wushang, and Elder Xun, remember this. Our royal family will not let you go. His Majesty Emperor Qing will not let you go either. Xiang Tianzuan shouted angrily. The two Xiang wheels behind him exploded at the same time. The terrifying power spread out, forcing Mangshi to retreat hundreds of steps, and Xiang Tianzuan flew away. Mangshi stomped his feet in the air and barely stabilized his body. Looking at Xiang Tianzuan, who had already flown away, Mangshi said hatefully, "What a coward! I haven't even had my fun yet, and he ran away like this." Mangshi scolded as he came to Moyan Wushang's side. He stared at him and said, "You must be Jun. You are extremely famous in the outer yard and inner yard. Don't miss the entrance examination of Jiashan Academy." This is? At this moment, Duan had already regained control of his body. He quickly cupped his hands and politely asked Mangshi. Previously, he had fallen into the abyss, so he did not know who Mangshi was. "He is Mangshi, my uncle. Of course, he is also the deacon elder of the outer yard of Jiashan Academy. He is a glutton and lazy person." Moyan Wushang introduced him without any trace of politeness. Chapter 869. 9 stars transforming into dragons. After chatting with Mangshi for a while, Zhuan had a good impression of the honest man in front of him. Furthermore, from Mangshi's relationship with Moyan Wushang, he should also be from Jiashan College. Boom, boom. Muffled sounds of fighting resounded in the sky. Wen and the others raised their heads and looked at the sky. High up in the sky, the 18 stars were still colliding with each other. Lu Hantian and Great Emperor Qing were like two afterimages as they continued to fight. Terrifying power was erupting from their bodies. I wonder if Brother Hantian is a match for the Qing Emperor? Looking at the battle in the sky, Zhuan frowned slightly. After all, Lu Hantian had just advanced to the Emperor realm, while the Qing Emperor was an expert who had been called an emperor for a long time. In terms of battle power, Lu Hantian was actually not as good as the Qing Emperor. Bang! In the sky, the two of them collided again. The sound of the explosion reverberated through the clouds, and a circular wave of air spread out in the sky like a ball of auspicious clouds. Dun, dun, dun. A figure flew out from the 18 stars and retreated a few hundred feet. He stepped on the ground and barely managed to stabilize himself. This figure was Lu Hantian. At this moment, Lu Hantian's gaze was cold as he stared at the Qing Emperor in front of him. His expression was ugly. The Qing Emperor quietly floated in the air and stared deeply at Lu Hantian. He said, "Lu Hantian, you have just advanced to the Emperor realm and have not even stabilized your cultivation. How can you be a match for me? I am a person who loves talents. Seeing that it was not easy for you to cultivate to the Emperor realm, I will give you another chance. Submit to me and listen to my orders in the future. I will help you break through to a higher cultivation level and even give you a supreme position." Lu Hantian laughed coldly and said, "Qing Emperor, you want me to be your dog? Do you think that is possible?" The Qing Emperor's expression darkened as he said coldly, "It seems that you do not accept? All right, I will fulfill your wish and let you die with dignity. In the Qing Xian Empire, no one dares to go against my will. Those who go against me will die." As he spoke, the Lotus Emperor clenched his hands, and thousands of green rays of light shot out, piercing the 9 green stars together like the backbone of a huge dragon. Immediately, the Cyan Emperor's hand seals changed. Cyan energy gushed out like a vast ocean. The tide-like cyan energy adhered to the spine of the giant dragon formed by the 9 stars, forming green dragon scales on the skeleton. Brr! A green dragon that was almost 10,000 feet long was vaguely visible on the surface of the 9 stars that were connected together. The terrifying dragon might was like the sky was collapsing, crushing down as if it was going to collapse the entire space. 9 stars transform into dragon, dragon profound 9 heavens. The Azure Emperor's eyes were cold. His clothes and long hair fluttered without any wind. He waved his right hand, and the huge azure dragon formed by the 9 stars roared and charged towards Lu Hantian. What a terrifying dragon! What a powerful dragon might! Looking at the huge azure dragon formed by the 9 stars in the sky, everyone below revealed shocked expressions. The dragon's body, which was close to 3,000 meters long, stretched across the horizon like a river suspended in the 9 heavens. It was as if it was going to split the sky of the imperial capital in half. It was truly shocking. Lu Hantian's eyes narrowed. With a stomp of his foot, countless amounts of blood qi erupted, and the 9 blood-colored stars around him started to spin. Blood sacrificed to the 9 stars, transform into a long spear. Lu Hantian stretched out his right hand and grabbed at the air. Immediately, the 9 blood-colored stars that were spinning around him collided with each other, and a violent rumble resounded through the sky. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the 9 blood-colored stars shattered into countless blood-colored powder. Then, the dense blood-colored powder started to spin and condense under Lu Hantian's hand gestures, turning into a blood spear that was almost 10,000 feet long. The might of the blood spear that was 10,000 feet long was not any weaker than the azure dragon. Furthermore, there were countless blood-colored vortexes around the blood spear, and it looked extremely terrifying. Go for me! Lu Hantian landed at the end of the blood spear and his right palm struck the end of the spear. A terrifying power surged out, and the blood spear shot out like an arrow. In the air, the massive dragon and the blood-red spear collided under the gazes of countless people. Azure and blood-red light exploded out, covering the entire night sky. Half of it was blood-red, and the other half was azure. In an instant, the entire sky seemed to have sunk into a strange silence. Everyone's ears seemed to have lost their sense of hearing at this moment. They could not hear anything, and only the 2 colors, one green and one blood, spread across the sky, radiating brilliance and splendor. Rumble! After a long period of silence, an explosion finally rang out in the sky. Furthermore, it rang out continuously, as if endless fireworks were being released at this moment. In the sky, a wisp of deep black appeared in the gap between the blood spear and the azure dragon. This wisp of black became darker, denser, and larger. Finally, this wisp of black continued to expand, and everyone finally discovered this wisp of black. When this wisp of black had expanded to several hundred feet, they finally saw the true appearance of this wisp of black. This is the void space within the spatial crack. The attacks of the 2 Emperor Realm experts actually tore apart the space above, revealing the void darkness hidden behind the spatial crack. Looking at the wisp of deep black, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. The void space was hidden behind the spatial crack, and it was extremely difficult to make this void space appear. However, the battle between Emperor Qing and Lu Hantian had actually caused the void space to appear. This showed how terrifying the power of their battle was. Zhouwen's eyes were also filled with shock. This was the strength of an Emperor Realm expert. How terrifying! Just by raising his hand, he actually had such terrifying power. Lu Hantian, from my point of view, you are just struggling before your death. Emperor Qing snorted coldly. His vigorous voice rumbled in the sky like thunder. Immediately, Emperor Qing leaped up and stepped onto the azure dragon. With a stomp of his foot, an even more terrifying aura burst out from his body. What? Emperor Qing's aura is still increasing. Emperor Qing's cultivation has already reached rank 2 Emperor Realm? Looking at Emperor Qing, whose aura had increased once again in the sky, Elder Shiwan was shocked and could not help but exclaim. Hearing this, Zhouwen, Moyan Wushang and Mangshi were also shocked. Although the 3 of them were still some distance away from the Emperor Realm, they already had a general understanding of the Emperor Realm. The Emperor Realm was divided into 9 ranks, and each rank was more powerful and terrifying than the previous one. It could even be said that the difference between the ranks of an Emperor Realm expert was much greater than the difference between the ranks of the 4 reverends. In the Emperor Realm, it was extremely difficult to challenge someone of a higher rank. Unless one was a peerless genius or possessed an extremely powerful spiritual treasure, it might be possible to challenge someone of a higher rank in the Emperor realm. I have to help Lu Hantian. Otherwise, Lu Hantian will not be a match for Emperor Qing. Elder Xiwan's eyes were solemn. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a streamer and flew towards Lu Hantian in the sky. Emperor Qing has hidden his strength well. Unknowingly, he has already reached rank 2 Emperor realm. Previously, there was no news of it at all. Moyan Wushang's beautiful eyes flashed and his face turned pale. If Emperor Qing was still a rank 1 Emperor realm expert, they would not be so worried. However, Emperor Qing was a rank 2 Emperor realm expert, and this had completely disrupted their plans. After Emperor Qing revealed his rank 2 Emperor realm strength, the aura of the giant green dragon under his feet increased by several times. The roar of the dragon resounded through the sky. In an instant, the sky that was originally split in half by the green radiance and the crimson radiance was suddenly enveloped by the green radiance. The crimson radiance was gradually suppressed by the green radiance and was continuously pushed back. Rank 2 Emperor realm? Emperor Qing, you have hidden your strength well. You are already a rank 2 Emperor realm expert. With your cultivation, I'm afraid you're already considered a strong expert outside of the Qing Xin Empire. Yet, you're curled up in such a small empire? Lu Hantian groaned and continuously retreated. Emperor Qing was a rank 2 Emperor realm expert. He was too strong. Lu Hantian had just reached the Emperor realm. How could he compete with Emperor Qing now? Can't you see the reason why I'm guarding the small Qing Xin Empire? The Saiyan Emperor said meaningfully. Ryuka's descendants? Lu Hantian's eyes turned cold. Emperor Qing must be related to the Blue Dragon Hall. Besides the Ryuka's descendants, Lu Hantian could not think of any other reason for Emperor Qing to stay in this small Qing Xin Empire for so long. Lu Hantian, you are indeed smart. To be honest, I am one of the outer sect elders of the Green Dragon Main Hall. The reason why I came to your Qing Xin Empire is to search for clues about the Long clan's descendants. Coincidentally, there are traces of the Long clan's descendants' activities in the Qing Xin Empire. Because of this, I put down my pride and waited patiently in Qing Xin Empire for so many years. The rewards are not small. Whether it is Zhuan or Zhuo they are both Ryuka's descendants with dragon souls. Especially Zhuan, who has a rank 9 dragon soul. How can I let go of such a Ryuka genius? Speaking of this, the Qing Emperor's eyes revealed a hint of fervor and madness. After seeing Zhuo, the Qing Emperor had already planned in his heart. He had a contract scroll with him. He could use the contract scroll to transfer Zhuowen's powerful dragon soul to himself. Zhuo Xiaotian could offer it to Green Dragon Main Hall in exchange for contributions and merits. This was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. By then, Emperor Qing would not need to stay in this small Qing Xin Empire. He could roam the entire eastern lands and even the entire heavenly armor continent. In order to fulfill my wish, all of you must die. Zhuo Wendi is a must-have. Chapter 870. The pursuit of Emperor Qing. Lu Hantian's expression changed when he saw the green dragon's power increase. He roared and waved his sleeve. A terrifying energy surged out from his body, wanting to stop the green dragon. Unfortunately, Lu Hantian had only just advanced to the first level of the Great Emperor realm, while the Azure Emperor had already reached the second level of the Great Emperor realm. His strength far surpassed Lu Hantian's. As such, Lu Hantian's actions were completely futile. Thud thud thud. With a muffled groan, Lu Hantian retreated again and again. His entire body trembled and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. However, he still managed to stand in front of the giant azure dragon. Brother Liu, this old man will lend you a hand. Then, Elder Xiwan took a step forward and came to Lu Hantian's side. Then, he waved his sleeves and a terrifying spiritual energy gushed out and turned into a giant mountain that resisted the green dragon together with the giant spear. Thank you for your help, Elder Xun. Looking at Elder Xiwan who was helping him, Lu Hantian's eyes were filled with gratitude. He cupped his hands and bowed. With Elder Xiwan's help, the pressure on Lu Hantian was greatly reduced. He was able to block the giant azure dragon. There's no need for that. You are doing this for Zhuowen, and Zhuowen is the second elder of the Arcane Guild, so helping you is helping Zhuowen. Elder Xuan shook his head and smiled faintly. Emperor Qing's gaze became heavy as he stared coldly at Elder Xun and said, Elder Xun, why do you have to meddle in everything? Do you really think that I won't dare to touch you? Elder Xun shook his head and said, It is not that I want to go against you, Emperor Qing. It is you who wants to go against Zhuowen. If you agree to let Zhuowen go, this old man will not interfere. Let Zhuowen go? Do you think that's possible? The Lotus Emperor sneered and continued, Since you've gone against me time and time again, don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, Emperor Qing snorted and reached out with his right hand. A green ball of light appeared in his palm. Then he pressed the green ball of light into the azure dragon's head. Whir! The green dragon let out a roar, and its huge body shook violently, as if the green light had caused it great pain. Then, the green dragon's huge body was bathed in the green light. Within the green light, the body of the giant green dragon expanded again. It grew from 1,000 feet to 30 to 40,000 feet. An even more terrifying aura came crashing down, causing Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan to be shocked. Break for this emperor! Emperor Qing roared. His voice spread across the sky like thunder. Immediately, the huge azure dragon attacked with its claw, hitting the blood spear and the spiritual mountain. The power of this attack was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the blood spear and the spiritual mountain began to shake violently. Then there was a crisp cracking sound. Regardless of whether it was the blood spear or the spiritual mountain, the surface of the blood spear or the spiritual mountain began to crack. Are you still not breaking? Emperor Qing jumped up from the azure dragon and stretched out his flawless right hand. At that moment, the green light on the surface of his hand wriggled and turned into a huge azure dragon claw. Wrapped in the azure dragon claw, Emperor Qing hit the blood spear and the spiritual mountain in front of him. Then, there was a continuous cracking sound. Then, the blood spear and the spiritual mountain collapsed. The Elder Xuan and Lu Hantian were shocked. They spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. They only managed to stabilize themselves after retreating a few hundred meters away. Their eyes were filled with fear and terror. Emperor Qing was so terrifying. The two of them were no match for him even though they had joined forces. Swoosh! There was a piercing sound and a green shadow cut across the sky. Emperor Qing appeared in front of the two of them in an instant. He struck out with both palms and countless green dragon shadows swept out around him. Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan were both pale. However, Emperor Qing was too fast. They had no choice but to deal with him. Hence, the two of them struck out with their strongest palms. The two of you are too weak. You are courting death if you think you can resist me. Emperor Qing's cold voice resounded. Suddenly, the four palms collided. Terrifying energy exploded and swept out countless hurricanes and vortexes in the void. Bang! Bang! Unsurprisingly, Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan were like stray dogs. They were hit by Emperor Qing's palms and turned into two meteors that fell to the ground. They landed on the wasteland a few hundred meters away from the dungeon and created two huge pits. Emperor Qing is too strong. Even if Lu Hantian, who has broken through to the imperial power, and Elder Xuan, the president of the Arcane Guild, join forces, they are no match for him. Looking at the defeated Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan, an uproar broke out among the crowd. Many of them shook their heads helplessly. Emperor Qing was too strong. The two of them had joined forces, yet they were still defeated in the end. Emperor Qing's target is you. Now that Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan have been defeated, I'm afraid Emperor Qing will attack you soon. Seeing that Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan had been defeated, Moyan Wushang suddenly said to Zhuan, "This is a teleportation talisman. Crush it and you will be able to leave Imperial City. You just have to be careful. Emperor Qing will not be able to find you." After saying that, Moyan Wushang stuffed a golden talisman into Zhuo Wen's hands. His beautiful eyes were filled with worry. However, just as he took out the golden talisman and handed it to Zhuo Wen, A strand of cyan energy swept over and destroyed the golden talisman. Leave? Miss Wushang, do you think that Zhuowen will be able to leave today? A mocking voice rang out. Emperor Qing walked over with his hands behind his back. He landed on top of Zhuowen and the others and silently looked down at Zhuowen. Emperor Qing, you dare to touch Zhuowen? He is Sister Chen Shui's sweetheart. If you dare to touch him, Sister Chen Shui will not let you off. Moyan Wushang stared at Emperor Qing and said sternly. The Azure Emperor smiled and said indifferently, so what? Zhuowen has no power or influence. Do you think that the forces behind Mu Chenxue will accept such a lowly person? As for Mu Chenxue, I am not afraid. You don't have to use her to threaten me. After saying that, Emperor Qing appeared in front of Zhuowen in an instant. He stretched out his right hand and intended to grab Zhuowen. This grab seemed slow, but it was as fast as lightning. Before Zhuowen could even react, Emperor Qing had already grabbed his right shoulder. Shahei. Zhuowen growled as his eyes turned dark gold. Then, a terrifying dragon's might spread out from him. Dragon kill! Zhuowen's right hand turned into a dragon claw and slammed into Emperor Qing's palm. The latter's right hand froze for a moment. Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Dragon wings, open! At that moment, Xiao He had taken control of Zhuowen's body. She formed a seal with her hands and 3 pairs of dragon wings grew out of Zhuowen's back. Like the wind, Zhuowen turned into a shadow and quickly flew away. He wanted to escape from Emperor Qing's range. Interesting, but do you think you can escape like this? Emperor Qing slowly retracted his palm and looked at Zhuowen, who was running for his life in a panic. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. He lightly stomped his foot and instantly flew toward Zhuowen. Damn it! This Emperor Qing is too scary. He's so strong. I'm scared to death. Xiao He kept mumbling to herself as she ran. Zhuowen's consciousness in Emperor Qing's mind was also filled with worry. He said, Xiao He, Emperor Qing is an Emperor Realm expert. Can we escape? Moreover, Brother Han Tian is still here. Won't it be inappropriate for us to escape like this? Damn it. Do you have a pig's brain? Emperor Qing's target is you. Or rather, he's here for me. If we escape, we can lure Emperor Qing away. Lu Hantian and the rest are very safe now, Xiao He said unhappily. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Xiao He was right. Emperor Qing's main target was him. It was impossible that he would specifically target Lu Hantian and the rest. You're absolutely right. My target is you. Therefore, you'd better follow me obediently. Emperor Qing's voice suddenly sounded in Xiao He's ears. His tone was calm and deep. There was even a hint of interest in his tone. Emperor Qing? Xiao He cried out softly and quickly stopped. In front of him, Emperor Qing, who was dressed in green, was quietly floating. His deep eyes were quietly staring at Xiao He as the corners of his mouth curled up. Let's go! Immediately stopping, Xiao He turned around and left without hesitation. He wanted to break through from another direction. However, what terrified Xiao He was that no matter how he tried to escape, he could still see Emperor Qing waiting in front of him. I'm not playing with you anymore. Come with me. Emperor Qing's lips curled up. He stretched out his right hand. Instantly, a huge and terrifying palm enveloped Zhuowen from the void. Rumble! Zhuowen's dark golden eyes erupted with an unprecedentedly powerful golden light as he looked at the enormous palm that was crushing down from the sky. With a furious roar, he stomped his foot and actually did not dodge as he rushed towards the palm. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Zhuowen didn't dodge, the mocking smile on the Qing Emperor's face grew even wider. He watched Zhuowen's actions with great interest. How could a mere supreme being be able to block his casual palm strike? However, Emperor Qing's smile quickly froze. Zhuowen, who had transformed into a dragon man, raised his hands and caught the huge palm. Then, Zhuowen tore his hands apart and the palm in the void completely collapsed. Swoosh! After the palm was broken, Zhuowen spread his 3 pairs of dragon wings and rushed into the distance again at a speed much faster than before. Your dragon soul is indeed powerful. However, these belong to me. You'd better leave them behind. Emperor Qing's eyes darkened. He snorted and rushed out again. This time, he no longer looked down on Zhuan. In an instant, he rushed above Zhuan. His right hand formed a palm and slammed heavily on Zhuan's chest. Zhuan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew in the opposite direction. His aura became extremely weak. Emperor Qing took another step forward and pressed his right palm against Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen spat out another mouthful of blood and fell down like a meteor. Chapter 871. You are not qualified, Yun. Lu Hantian, Elder Xuan and Moyan Wushang exclaimed when they saw the figure that had been shot down by Emperor Qing. Unfortunately, Elder Shi Yuan and Lu Hantian were both seriously injured. It was difficult for them to get up and help Zhuowen. Mo Yen Wushang wanted to help Zhuowen but was stopped by Mang Shi. Uncle Mang Shi, what are you doing? Get out of the way. Moyan Wushang frowned and said coldly when she saw Mang Shi blocking her way. Emperor Qing is too strong. It's useless for you to go over. Let's not get involved in this mess. Let's leave the Qing Xian Empire and go to the outer yard. Mang Shi shook his head. Moyan Wushang's face changed and she said, No. Zhuan was given to me by Sister Qin Shui. I can't leave him alone. Then, Moyan Wushang took a step forward and tried to pass by Mang Shi. Unfortunately, Mang Shi grabbed Moyan Wushang and took out a talisman with a flick of his right hand. Then, Mang Shi crushed the talisman in his hand. Great Shift Talisman? Uncle Mang Shi? Moyan Wushang was shocked when she saw the talisman in Mang Shi's hand. This was given to me by the old man. I thought I wouldn't need it, but I have to use it to save you from danger. Mang Shi said and pulled Moyan Wushang to his side. A dazzling light enveloped the two of them and they disappeared in the blink of an eye. Up in the sky, Emperor Qing naturally noticed Mang Shi and Moyan Wushang leaving, but he didn't stop them. Both Mang Shi and Moyan Wushang had extraordinary statuses, and Emperor Qing didn't dare to do anything to them. Now that they had left, he heaved a sigh of relief. Now, I just have to deal with Zhuan. The Azure Emperor's eyes flashed. He took a step in the air and landed at the place where Zhuowen had fallen. There was a deep pit there, and Zhuowen was lying in it. His whole body was numb and powerless. Many dragon scales on his body had cracked, and fresh blood was flowing out. Emperor Qing, you bastard! Zhuowen roared and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. Emperor Qing landed beside the deep pit and looked at Zhuan. He said indifferently, No matter how unwilling you are, it is useless. From the moment you possessed the dragon soul, your fate was already sealed. Of course, if you cooperate with me to let me extract the dragon soul from you, I can spare your life. How about it? Zhuowen glared at the Azure the Arch and said coldly, You want me to cooperate with you to extract the dragon soul? Don't. The Lotus Emperor was not angry at all. He said indifferently, Looks like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since you don't want to cooperate, I will take it by force. I can't guarantee your life. As he spoke, the Saiyan Emperor slowly walked towards the deep pit. Then, he extended his right hand. Two of his right hand's fingers formed a sword and swept toward Zhuowen's forehead. He was actually planning to extract the dragon soul from Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. Just as the sword was about to reach Zhuowen's glabella, a black fog rushed out of Zhuowen's glabella. Emperor Qing's eyes narrowed. He realized that the black fog was extremely corrosive. Wisps of white smoke rose from the surface of his fingers. Emperor Qing took a few steps back and waved his right hand. Green light covered his right hand and neutralized the strange black fog. Emperor Qing, you're not qualified to extract this dragon lord. A cold voice rang out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows. Soon after, the ink-black fog rapidly spread out. It soared into the sky and turned into a black fog that filled the sky. A dragon's roar rang out as the black mist churned violently. Following that, a black dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long flew out from the black mist. Its black dragon scales reflected a frightening chill, and its 3 pairs of huge dragon wings spread open as it soared into the sky. Within the deep pit, Zhuowen's injuries were too severe, and it was extremely difficult for him to even move. At this moment, he stared at the enormous black dragon in the sky with a trace of sorrow in his eyes. Xiao He had materialized in advance again. Zhuan knew very well how much damage Xiao He had suffered. Xiao He had also materialized in the Baichuan marquis residence. In the end, Xiao He fell into a deep sleep. The price she had to pay this time was probably not any smaller. The Azure the Arch frowned slightly as he looked up at the black dragon in the sky. Blackie's true form was beyond his expectations. Just the dragon's body alone was tens of thousands of feet long. Its power was terrifying. Many of the surrounding warriors stared at the huge black dragon with their mouths agape. This black dragon was even several times larger than the green dragon formed by Emperor Qing using the power of stars. The terrifying dragon power that flowed out faintly made some weaker warriors tremble in fear. This is Zhuowen's dragon soul? It is so powerful. Lu Hantian and Elder Shi Yuan were stunned. They looked at the huge black dragon that almost covered the entire sky, and their eyes were filled with shock. Although they knew that the dragon soul in Zhuowen's body was extraordinary, they realized that they had underestimated the power of the dragon soul in Zhuowen's body after seeing it with their own eyes. Although I can't recognize what kind of real dragon you are, your power is beyond my expectations. I must get you. Emperor Qing's eyes flickered. After saying that, he took a step forward and flew toward Zhuan, who was in the deep pit. After all, Zhuan was Xiao He's master. Emperor Qing knew that if he could control Zhuan, it would be much easier to subdue the terrifying black dragon in front of him. Despicable! Xiao He roared angrily. The loud dragon roar resounded through the sky, and the huge dragon body flew toward Emperor Qing. 9 stars transform into dragon. Block the black dragon for me. Looking at Xiao He, who was diving down, Emperor Qing squinted his eyes. He waved his right hand and commanded the huge green dragon that was not far away to fly toward Xiao He. Get lost. Xiao He pressed down with his right claw. Endless black fog filled the void and blasted the huge green dragon. However, the huge green dragon was not to be outdone. It also used its dragon claw to attack Xiao He. Brr! A sorrowful cry resounded. The green dragon claw that the huge green dragon had unleashed collapsed with a single blow. Immediately, the black fog around the black dragon began to spread, wrapping around the huge green dragon. Waves of terrifying corrosive power began to spread. In the blink of an eye, the huge green dragon was completely corroded into nothingness by the black fog. Hiss hiss hiss. Looking at the huge green dragon that was instantly corroded into nothingness, the surrounding warriors gasped and the shock in their eyes intensified. They had seen how terrifying the huge green dragon was during the battle between Emperor Qing and Lu Hantian. Even Lu Hantian and Elder Shi Yuan were no match for the huge green dragon. However, in front of the huge black dragon, the huge green dragon was unable to withstand a single blow. With just one claw, the huge green dragon was annihilated. In the distance, Lu Hantian and Elder Shi Yuan looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They finally understood why Emperor Qing was trying so hard to get the dragon soul in Zhuo Zheng's body. That was because Zhuowen's dragon soul was too terrifying. Emperor Qing's 9 stars transform into dragon was unable to withstand a single blow from it. The Azure Emperor's eyes also revealed a trace of shock. The black dragon was far more terrifying than he had expected. However, his eyes were soon filled with passion. The more terrifying the black dragon was, the more the Azure Emperor's desire to obtain it grew. As long as he could obtain the mysterious dragon soul in Zhuowen's body, Emperor Qing would be able to obtain a supreme position in the Green Dragon main hall. He might even be able to become a sage. Thinking of all the benefits, Emperor Qing sped up again and quickly closed in on Zhuan. As long as he could restrain Zhuan, the black dragon would be helpless. Emperor Qing, you despicable and shameless fellow. How dare you touch a junior like Zhuan? After annihilating the huge green dragon, Xiao He saw that Emperor Qing was getting closer to Zhuan in the deep pit. She could not help but roar angrily. She opened her huge dragon mouth and spat out a huge black ball. 7-colored light flowed on the surface of the black ball. It contained a terrifying amount of energy. Emperor Qing also noticed the black ball. His expression changed slightly. With a flick of his finger, he took out a scroll from his spirit ring. With a toss of his right hand, the huge scroll expanded infinitely and floated in the air. Then, the scroll slowly opened and countless petals floated out. Peach Blossom Temple in Peach Blossom Cove. Peach Blossom Temple in Peach Blossom Temple. The peach blossom immortal planted peach blossoms and then plucked them to exchange for wine money. This huge painting scroll was the Emperor Qing's painstaking creation, the Peach Blossom Origin painting. The Great Battle of the 9 Counties was held in this Peach Blossom Origin painting. At this moment, Emperor Qing had even taken out the Peach Blossom Origin painting. Clearly, Xiao Hei's attack had caught his attention. Boom, boom, boom. The black ball instantly arrived in front of the Peach Blossom Origin painting. Then, it contracted and exploded. 7 colored balls of light flowed out from the black ball. It was as if countless rainbows had been pieced together. It was dazzling and eye-catching. The Peach Blossom Origin painting shook violently. Under the attack of such explosive energy, its surface dimmed and showed signs of collapsing. The Peach Blossom Origin painting was indeed an emperor artifact. Although it looked like it was about to collapse, its defensive power was extremely shocking. It forcefully withstood the terrifying explosive energy. Emperor Qing grunted. In the instant that the Peach Blossom Origin painting blocked the explosion, he had already reached the deep pit. He sneered at Un and said, "I'll have to trouble you to cooperate." Emperor Qing, how can you do such a despicable thing? As the ruler of the Qing Xian Empire, don't you feel ashamed? Zhuowen said coldly. Ashamed? As long as it's a powerful force, I can do anything. What's there to be surprised about? The Qing Supreme the Arch did not think much of it. He reached out with his right hand, intending to grab Zhuowen's neck. However, how could Zhuowen let him do as he wished? He stomped on the ground with all his might and rolled out miserably, dodging the Qing Supreme Thearcha's hand. Looks like you don't want to cooperate. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. Chapter 872. SS Contract Scroll Crack. Zhuowen felt as if all his internal organs had shifted, and he was burning with pain. His sternum had been completely shattered by the Azure Supreme Thearcha's stomp. Although Zhuowen's recovery ability was very strong, his current injury was too terrible. It would take a long time for him to recover. Emperor Qing was also very ruthless. The sole of his foot contained a sealing power that sealed Zhuowen's cultivation. If you had cooperated earlier, you wouldn't have had to suffer such physical pain. The Azure Emperor snorted coldly. With a wave of his right hand, he grabbed Zhuowen's collar and lifted him up. He looked up at the huge black dragon in the sky and said indifferently, "This Zhuowen's life is in my hands. Once he dies, your dragon soul will have no one to rely on. At that time, you can only rely on me." Emperor Qing, you bastard! The black dragon roared. Its voice was full of anger. Emperor Qing was so despicable. He actually used Zhuowen to threaten it. It seems that your energy is very strong. I need to calm you down. Emperor Qing squinted his eyes. Then he pinched his sword with his right hand and pointed at Zhuowen's glabella. A green light suddenly drilled into Zhuowen's glabella. The destructive power of this green light was extremely terrible. It penetrated Zhuowen's glabella and entered his sea of consciousness. The terrifying power of the green light raged and destroyed Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. In the Mudpill Palace, due to the raging green light, the mind power of complete level 5 gushed out together, trying to completely suppress the invading green light. The cultivation of your mind power is not bad. It has reached complete level 5. Emperor Qing's eyes narrowed and his mouth was full of a sneer. He pointed his sword again and an even more terrible green light invaded. Suddenly, the mind power in Zhuowen's sea of consciousness collapsed into countless pieces under the attack of the green light. The green light fearlessly entered the depths of Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was extremely pale. His face was full of ferocity, which was a violent reaction caused by the severe pain. Pucci. Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and said through gritted teeth, "Azure the Arch. What are you trying to do?" What are you doing? Your sea of consciousness is the habitat of this black dragon. If you want to weaken this black dragon, the only way is to completely destroy your sea of consciousness. This way, this black dragon will collapse on its own. The Azure Supreme the Arch laughed coldly as an even stronger azure light entered Zhuowen's glabella. Zhuowen felt an explosion in his mind as intense pain spread throughout his head, causing Zhuowen to roar involuntarily. At this moment, Xiao Hei's huge dragon body began to dim due to the damage to Zhuowen's sea of consciousness. In the end, it became somewhat illusory and transparent. Xiao Hei's eyes also became somewhat listless. Xiao Hei was a dragon soul that was attached to Zhuowen's spiritual sea. The two of them were closely related. If Zhuowen's spiritual sea was damaged, Xiao Hei would naturally be greatly affected. Azure Supreme the Arch. If I don't die, I will definitely make you pay me back 1,000 times in the future. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were bloodshot due to the intense pain. He looked exceptionally ferocious and terrifying. However, the Azure Supreme the Arch sneered and said, "Pay me back 1,000 times? I don't think you have that chance. Now you are just a weakling. A weakling should have the awareness of a weakling. A weakling is born to obey the strong. You are just an ant in my eyes." After saying that, the Azure Supreme the Arch ignored Zhuowen. Instead, he took a step forward and instantly flew towards Xiao Hei in the sky. His eyes were burning with passion. He had already experienced how powerful Xiao Hei was. He had to obtain this terrifying dragon soul. At this moment, Xiao Hei's huge dragon body had already become a little dim and illusory. However, its eyes were still filled with ferocity. When it saw the Azure Supreme the Arch flying towards it, it roared angrily. A dragon claw that was a few hundred feet long struck out, bringing with it endless black fog. It wanted to kill the Azure Supreme the Arch completely. Sensing the terrifying power of this claw, the Azure Supreme Thearcha's expression changed slightly. He had not expected this black dragon to be able to unleash such a terrifying attack even though it was already so weak. "Yuan is in my hands. You won't have any chance to show off your skills." The Azure Supreme the Arch grinned and pointed his sword finger at Zhuowen's glabella again. Green light surged into Zhuowen's spiritual sea and messed up Zhuowen's spiritual sea again. This caused Zhuowen to roar in pain again. On the other hand, Xiao Hei looked up to the sky and groaned in pain. The dragon claw that it had struck out deviated from its course and landed on a piece of barren land below. Boom! Instantly, the barren land below cracked under this attack, forming a huge pit that was as deep as an abyss. What a terrifying attack power! Looking at the deep pit that Xiao Hei had created, the Azure Supreme Thearcha's eyes turned cold. Xiao Hei was already so weak, but he was still able to unleash such a terrifying attack. The Azure Supreme the Arch knew that if he had taken the attack head-on, although he could have withstood it, the outcome would not have been good for him. The Azure Supreme the Arch is despicable. In the distance, Lu Hantian and Elder Shun, who were lying on the ground, saw this scene. Their eyes were filled with anger and they gritted their teeth. Every time Xiao Hei attacked the Azure Supreme the Arch would use the same move to mess up Zhuowen's spiritual sea. This caused Xiao Hei's attack to be in vain and Xiao Hei became weaker and weaker. Zhuowen was in an even worse state. His spiritual sea had been damaged many times and the extreme pain had stimulated Zhuowen's consciousness to the point that it started to blur. His 7 orifices were bleeding and he was in a daze. "I am too weak. I'm still too weak." Zhuowen clenched his fists tightly and allowed the Azure Supreme the Arch to lift him up. He stared at the increasingly illusory black dragon in front of him and the unwillingness on his face intensified. Then he fell into a coma amidst the excruciating pain. He actually fainted from the pain? The Azure Supreme the Arch also noticed that Zhuowen had fainted. His eyes flickered and he muttered, "Anyway, the black dragon is almost weakened. This lad is no longer of any value." Having said that, the Azure Supreme the Arch threw Zhuowen down from a high altitude. At that moment, Zhuowen's cultivation was completely sealed by the Azure Supreme the Arch and he was in a coma. falling from a high altitude of 10,000 meters would undoubtedly cause his body to be smashed to pieces. This Zhuowen is finished. He fell from a height of 5,000 kilometers. He's dead for sure. Countless warriors looked at Zhuowen, who had been thrown down by the Azure Supreme the Arch, with pity in their eyes. It was a high altitude. Even a heavenly venerate expert would be smashed to pieces if he fell to the ground without any defensive measures, let alone Zhuowen. After throwing Zhuowen aside, the Azure Supreme the Arch focused all his attention on the Black Dragon. At that moment, the Black Dragon was so illusory that it was almost transparent. Its huge dragon eyes were drooping weakly. The Azure Supreme the Arch had destroyed Zhuowen's consciousness mercilessly just now, causing Xiaohe, who was closely related to Zhuowen, to be greatly affected. At that moment, she was much weaker than before. Zhuowen is too weak. You can't make the best use of him. Follow me, and I can bring you unparalleled glory. The Azure Supreme the Arch placed his hands behind his back and looked at Xiaohe indifferently. Ha! You are just a despicable and shameless person. What right do you have to have me? Although Xiaohe was extremely weak at the moment, she was still unyielding. The Azure Supreme the Arch snorted coldly. He waved his right hand and a black scroll appeared. He said coldly, "Whether you agree or not, you will be mine. This is a contract scroll. It can forcefully separate you from Zhuowen. At that time, I only need to refine the scroll, and you will be my eternal slave." As he spoke, the Azure Supreme the Arch instantly appeared above Xiaohe. He pressed down with his right hand, and countless green lights gathered to form a huge green hand that was close to 1,000 feet long. It pressed down on Xiaohe. Xiaohe roared angrily. She also struck out with her claws, trying to block the Azure Supreme Thearcha's huge green hand. You have already become so weak. Do you still have the ability to fight me? The Azure Supreme the Arch laughed proudly. The huge green hand collided with the dragon claw. In an instant, green and black lights burst out and filled the entire void. Suppress her! The Azure Supreme the Arch roared. The power of the huge green hand increased again. It crushed the dragon claw and slammed heavily on Xiaohe's body. Boom! Xiaohe's huge dragon body was covered by the huge green hand and was pressed to the ground. No matter how much she struggled, the huge green hand was too strong. She could not break free at all. Swoosh! The Azure Supreme the Arch stood on the huge green hand and smiled proudly. He waved his right hand and immediately opened the contract scroll. The contract scroll was engraved with blood-red runes. These runes looked extremely ancient and were the result of thousands of years of experience. The Azure Supreme the Arch drew a line across his right palm. Instantly, fresh blood spurted out. He then pressed his palm against the contract scroll without hesitation. Pist, pist, pist. As the fresh blood dripped into the contract scroll, the blood-red runes on the scroll seemed to come alive. They started to squirm. Then, the blood-red runes left the scroll. Like a long snake, they shot toward Xiaohe, who was being suppressed by the huge green hand. The blood-red runes shot out from the scroll and surrounded Xiaohe, binding her tightly. She could not move at all. Xiaohe roared into the sky and began to struggle. Unfortunately, the blood-red runes and the huge green hand had her completely suppressed. Don't be afraid. Very soon, you will become one with me. I will bring you along and make you famous in the Eastern land. When that time comes, you will enjoy unparalleled glory. The Azure Supreme the Arch stomped his foot and a terrifying power poured out. Xiaohe was pressed to the ground and could not move at all. While the Azure Supreme the Arch and everyone's attention was on Xiaohe, the bronze coffin behind Zhuowen, who was falling from mid-air, slowly opened. Wisps of blood-red aura surrounded Zhuowen. These wisps of blood-red aura entered Zhuowen's body through the major acupoints on his body. Zhuowen, the reason why you are suffering like this is because you are too weak. On this mainland, the weak have no right to speak or live. Because you are weak, those who are stronger than you can humiliate you and trample on your dignity. Chapter 873. SS becoming a demon on the spot. The darkness was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers. There was no light at all. At this moment, the scene before Zhuo Wen's eyes was one of nothingness. The Azure Emperor's silhouette gradually appeared in front of Zhuo Wen. At this moment, the Azure Emperor was high above, looking down at Zhuo Wen. His eyes were filled with indifference and arrogance. Maybe in the eyes of the Azure Emperor, Zhuo Wen was no different from an ant. Qing Supreme the Arch. What did you do to Xiao He? Where is this? Zhuo Wen stared coldly at the Qing Supreme the Arch. The Qing Supreme the Arch laughed mockingly. You are just a weakling now. A weakling should have the awareness of a weakling. A weakling is born to obey the strong. Do you think an ant like you is qualified to ask me a question? You are going too far. Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold. He took a step forward and dashed towards the Qing Supreme the Arch. He threw a punch with his right hand and wanted to kill the Qing Supreme the Arch. Swoosh. However, when Zhuo Wen's fist was about to touch the Qing Supreme the Arch, he realized that it was as if he had punched the air. The Qing Supreme the Arch disappeared into the darkness instantly. Lun, you are too weak. What right do you have to go against the Qing Supreme the Arch? What right do you have to be compared to the Qing Supreme the Arch? In the eyes of the Qing Supreme the Arch, you are just a valuable ant. A low and deep voice came from the depths of the darkness, echoing in the surroundings. It was repeated over and over again, echoing endlessly. Who's playing tricks on me? Zhuo Wen's hair stood on end. He could not sense where the voice came from. It was as if the voice had appeared out of nowhere in the darkness. Pissed. A pair of blood-red eyes appeared in the darkness in front of Zhuo Wen. They were filled with bloodlust and murderous intent. Zhuo Wen glanced at them and felt agitated. Blood demon? Zhuo Wen suppressed the agitation in his heart. He squinted his eyes and said in a low voice. It is me. The Qing Supreme the Arch can treat you like this mainly because you are weak. Could it be that you still want to endure the feeling of being unable to resist just now? Do you still want to be held hostage by the Azure Emperor and do nothing for yourself? A pair of blood-red eyes stared at Zhuo Wen quietly. Emperor Qing is in the sovereign realm, and I'm only in the sovereign realm. It's natural for me to be weaker than him. Can you give me the power to defeat the Azure the Arch? Zhuo Wen asked cautiously. Although he had reached an agreement with the Blood Devil, it was only a verbal agreement. There were no restrictions at all. The Blood Demon was an ancient saint-level demon, an extremely cunning and terrifying creature. One was naturally wary of it. Why not? As long as you open the bronze coffin and let me out, I can help you kill the Azure the Arch. Emperor Qing is only a second-level martial emperor. I can kill him with a wave of my hand. Yun, as long as you let me out, I can save you and help you kill Emperor Qing. What do you think? The blood-red eyes stared fixedly at Zhuo Wen, and his voice was full of persuasion. Zhuo Wen laughed and said indifferently, Blood Demon. Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old child? If I let you out with your strength, you won't deal with the Azure Emperor. You will deal with me instead. Pumph. You are now high up in the sky without any defensive measures. If you fall like this, you will definitely die. Without my power, you will definitely die. If you let me out, you will still have a chance to live. If you don't, you will die. The Blood Demon snorted coldly. I don't need to let you out. I can still borrow your power. Zhuo Wen's expression was cold. With a flip of his right hand, a blood-red mark was engraved on his palm. This blood-red mark was very inconspicuous. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see it. However, at this moment, the mark was shining with a blood-red light. In this pitch-black environment, it was like a bright lamp. Blood inheritance seal? Why do you have such a thing? It's impossible. When the pair of blood-red eyes hidden in the darkness saw the blood-red mark on Zhuo Wen's palm, its pupils shrank, and it actually retreated continuously. Let's see where you can retreat to. Zhuo Wen sneered. He clapped his right hand, and the blood inheritance seal on his palm exploded with an unprecedented blood-red light. The blood-red light was like a thread, and it flew towards the blood-red eyes. The blood-red light was extremely effective against the blood-red eyes. Although the blood demon retreated, he was still enveloped by the blood-red light. It turned into a blood-red cage, trapping the blood-red eyes. Zhuo Wen waved his right hand, and the blood-red eyes that were trapped in the blood-red cage were immediately caught in his palm. Why do you have the blood inheritance seal? This thing clearly only exists in my lair. How did you get it? The blood demon's voice was filled with fear. Brother Han Tian gave it to me. Back then, Brother Han Tian and I barged into your lair and found this blood inheritance seal in a blood-red space. Since you were sealed in the bronze coffin by me, Brother Han Tian gave this blood inheritance seal to me. However, unless I have no other choice, I will never use this thing. Unfortunately, we've reached the point where we have no other choice. At this point, Zhuowen's voice suddenly became gloomy. He stared at the blood-red light that was flickering in his palm. I advise you not to use this blood inheritance seal carelessly. If you are not careful, you will become a demon. At that time, you will become a demon who kills everyone in sight. This thing will not benefit you or me. I promise you, if you let me out, I will not attack you or anyone related to you. The blood demon's voice became extremely anxious. Zhuan shook his head and said, I don't trust you. I only trust myself. So what if I become a demon? Now that I have reached the end of my rope, for power, what's wrong with becoming a demon? You madman, Yang Qi said. Once you become a devil, not only will you consume my essence, but your own life essence will also be consumed. When that time comes, your cultivation base and your life force will fade away and become devil will. It's a thankless task. The blood demon spoke again. This time, there was a hint of flattery and negotiation in his voice. Blood demon, I didn't expect you to feel fear? Zhuan suddenly laughed. His laughter was extremely crazy. Since he had reached the end of his rope, why would he not dare to fight? At that moment, the only thing in Zhuowen's heart was the desire to live. He could not die, nor would he allow himself to die. This was not because he, Zhuowen, was afraid of death, but because of Mu Chenxue. The cold poison in Mu Chenxue's body was too strong, and she only had less than 3 years left. Zhuan had a way to fuse with the heavenly flame. This heavenly flame could save Mu Chenxue and also help Mu Chenxue extend her life. Mu Chenxue's cold poison had not been cured, and the heavenly flame had not been successfully fused. How could he, die? So what if he turned into a demon? He, Zhuan, had to go to Jiaoshan Academy and take the heavenly flame to find Mu Chenxue. Even if he turned into a demon, he had to complete this knot in his heart. Is it so scary to turn into a demon? After saying this, Zhuan clenched his fist. The blood-red cage and the pair of blood-red eyes were crushed by Zhuan at the same time. Zhuan, you will regret this. You actually dared to treat this demon like this, you damned human. The blood demon's voice became softer and softer until it was inaudible. Shortly after, Zhuan discovered that the surrounding darkness was gradually fading away, replaced by a scarlet color. The pitch-black world turned into a bloody region. Kill, kill, kill. In the bloody region, the countless resentment turned into blood qi, turning into thousands of strands that flowed into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. The terrifying negative emotions within the resentment filled Zhuowen's mind, causing countless unsightly, hellish scenes to appear in Zhuowen's mind. These scenes were the memories of the countless resentment when they were alive, and they were all extremely hateful and ugly memories. For power, I am willing to turn into a demon. He roared into the sky. Instantly, countless resentments surged into Zhuowen's body. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with blood-red color. The blood-red color was extremely ferocious and terrifying, as if it did not belong to a human. It was filled with too much killing intent, resentment, and bloodthirstiness. All the negative emotions in the world appeared in these blood-red eyes. These resentment were the terrifying negative energy that the blood demon had accumulated from the endless killings he had caused in the ancient times. At the same time, they were the source of the blood demon's power. Now, Zhuan was absorbing these negative energies without restraint. In fact, he was absorbing the blood demon's power. The blood demon was suppressed by Zhuowen's blood inheritance seal, so he could only watch as Zhuowen continuously absorbed his power. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the Cyan Emperor and the Black Dragon. At this moment, Countless blood-red runes had enveloped Xiao Hei's huge dragon body. Xiao Hei was getting weaker and weaker. He had struggled with all his might at the beginning, but now he was motionless, as if he had accepted his fate. The Saiyan Emperor's face became more and more pleased, and his eyes were filled with passion. Finally, this powerful dragon soul was going to be his. Rumble! A thunderous sound rang out, and Zhuowen's body finally smashed into the ground, stirring up a dense cloud of dust that covered everyone's vision. Falling from a height of 10,000 meters, Zhuowen is dead for sure. Because of this loud sound, many people's eyes fell on the place where Zhuowen had fallen. Although everyone knew that Zhuowen was definitely going to die, they still wanted to see how Zhuowen was doing. As the dust gradually settled, a figure was faintly discernible within the dust. The clear sound of footsteps was so clear and loud at this moment. It was as if these footsteps were stepping on everyone's hearts, tightly gripping their hearts. The Saiyan Emperor frowned slightly. Naturally, he had also heard the steady footsteps. His eyes were filled with doubt. He did not believe that Zhuowen was still alive, and that he could walk out because of this. When the Azure the Arch turned his head to look, he was stunned because the figure that walked out of the dust was none other than Zhuowen. Chapter 874. Bedevilment Massacre? Staring at Zhuowen, who was slowly walking towards him with those inhuman crimson eyes, Emperor Qing's eyes narrowed. At this moment, Zhuowen gave him a strange feeling. It was as if the Zhuowen in front of him was not a human, but an ancient demon. Waves of terrifying blood qi rose around Zhuowen like steam. Emperor Qing frowned slightly. He could vaguely feel that something was wrong with Zhuowen's current state. Moreover, Zhuowen's cultivation had been completely sealed by him just now, making him a target for others to slaughter. However, not only was Zhuowen's cultivation unaffected, but his aura was also much more terrifying than before. "Hey Yao! Bring the guards of the dungeon and take him down. If possible, kill him on the spot." Emperor Qing's eyes were cold. Since He Yao was already under his control, Emperor Qing no longer cared about Zhuowen's life. Blood Inheritance Seal? Zhuowen couldn't have used the Blood Inheritance Seal, right? In the distance, Lu Hantian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, also noticed Zhuowen's strange state. His eyes widened as an ominous feeling rose in his heart. He had obtained the Blood Inheritance Seal from the Blood Demon's lair. With the Blood Inheritance Seal, Zhuowen could easily suppress the Blood Demon. However, other than suppression, the Blood Inheritance Seal also had another function, which was to absorb the power of the Blood Demon for one's own use, turning one into a demon immediately. It could be said that the drawback of the Blood Inheritance Seal was too great. If one was not careful, one would fall into a demon forever and become a demon who would kill anyone he saw, incurring a boundless debt of blood. At this moment, Zhuowen's state showed signs of turning into a demon. Lu Hantian knew that Zhuowen must have used the Blood Inheritance Seal that he had given him previously. In the open space outside the dungeon, there were thousands of guards. He Yao, He Yu, and He Shi were the three leaders of the Black Beast Army. These guards were basically under the command of the three of them. At the same time, Emperor Qing waved his right hand and two talismans appeared in his palm. He crushed the talismans and two green light pillars appeared not far away from him. Xiang Tianzuan and Heavenly Master Huang Jiao, who had escaped, appeared in the green light pillars. At this moment, both of them looked confused. They were originally still running away, but were hit by the two light pillars, and then they were here. Huang Jiao, this is the Emperor Qing's Emperor Qing. The Dragon Soul. The two, Emperor Qing's Emperor Qing. Emperor Qing had Emperor Huang Jiao, and Huang Jiao. Emperor Huang Jiao, Emperor. At this moment, Emperor Qing's eyes became extremely solemn. He was constantly using the power in the contract scroll to refine the Black Dragon. Hence, he could not afford to make any mistakes. Xiang Tianzuan and Heavenly Master Huang Jiao then reacted. They knew that Emperor Qing had brought them here. At the same time, they also saw Lu Hantian and Elder Xiwan, who were severely injured not far away. Their eyes were filled with shock. It seemed that Emperor Qing's strength was beyond their expectations. Even Lu Hantian and Elder Shiwan had been easily defeated. Hence, the two of them were even more in awe of Emperor Qin. They quickly accepted the order and flew towards Lu Hantian and Elder Shun. Since Emperor Qin had ordered them to do so, they had no choice but to obey. Yun also noticed Xiang Tianzuan and Heavenly Master Huang Jiao's whereabouts. He let out a low growl from his throat and the crimson light in his eyes became even more intense. Rumble! With a stomp of his foot, the entire ground shook a few times. Zhuan then flew towards Xiang Tianzuan and Heavenly Master Huang Jiao to stop them. "Let's see where you can run to," He Yao shouted coldly. He led He Shi, He Yu, and a few thousand guards behind him to intercept Zhuan from midair. His eyes were filled with hostility. Scram or die. At this moment, Zhuan still retained his consciousness. Although countless resentment filled his mind and Zhuan's heart was filled with killing intent, his willpower was extremely strong and he was not affected by the desire to kill. How arrogant of you to ask so many of us to scram. You are just a small sovereign realm martial artist. What qualifications do you have? He Yao sneered. However, just as He Yao finished his words, Huan appeared in front of He Yao as though he had teleported. His right hand formed a blade and slashed at He Yao from bottom to top. Tearing sounds could be heard continuously. So fast. He Yao was taken aback, but his reaction wasn't slow. He roared angrily and raised his spear to block Zhuowen's attack. Crack! A crisp sound could be heard. Before He Yao could react, his spear was broken into two by Zhuowen's attack. The sharp blood qi instantly invaded He Yao's body. Ah! He Yao screamed as his chest was pierced by Zhuowen's attack. Then, Zhuan pulled his right hand and a terrifying force poured out. He Yao exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Zhuan clenched his right hand and the blood mist that He Yao had turned into started to condense into a bloody spear in Zhuowen's hand. There were even protrusions on the surface of the spear that looked like blood vessels. In an instant, He Yao, who was an advanced golden sovereign, was killed. In an instant, the guards surrounding Zhuan fell into an eerie silence. They were all dumbfounded as they watched the scene unfold before them. Kill! Kill! Zhuan roared as he stomped his foot and came before He Yu and He Shi. He waved the blood spear in his hand and countless blood qi gushed out, forming a blood vortex. He Yu and He Shi's expressions changed slightly. They both used their strongest moves in an attempt to block Zhuowen's attack. Two streams of blood spurted out. Zhuan had only thrown out 2 spear strikes. He Yu and He Shi, who were both golden sovereigns, were killed without any resistance. Plop. The 2 corpses fell from the sky once again, and only then did the surrounding guards completely react. Kill. This man sneakily attacked Commander He Yao. We can't let him go. Kill him. Seeing He Yao and the other 2 dead, the surrounding guards were not afraid. Instead, they were filled with rage as they charged toward Zhuan. They wanted to kill Zhuowen once and for all. You're courting death. Zhuowen's deep voice resounded as he waved his blood spear. Countless blood vortexes swept out from the surroundings. Blood-curdling screams were heard as the blood vortexes were like a meat grinder, killing all the surrounding guards. Blood mist burst out and formed a blood rain in the sky. Zhuowen did not say a word. He was as silent as gold, but his blood spear was extremely terrifying. With a single thrust of his spear, dozens of soldiers screamed and turned into a bloody mist. With one step, dozens of guards were killed. Blood rain fell. Finally, the surrounding guards who were surrounding Zhuowen started to feel fear. Their bodies were shivering and their eyes were filled with fear. The figure that was slowly walking out from the blood rain was like an Azura that had walked out from the Azura hell. The blood spear that was cast with blood was like the light of death. Every time it flashed, it would take away a life. This was a completely unequal battle. At the same time, it was an unbelievable massacre. He's not a human. He's a demon. He's a demon who kills without batting an eye. Everyone run. When Zhuan killed 2/3 of the guards, the remaining guards were finally terrified. They roared and fled in all directions. Will it really work? Zhuowen's eyes turned even redder and sharper, as if he had truly turned into a devil. With a stomp of his foot, the surrounding blood qi condensed into numerous blood spears. Bush, bush. Countless blood spears shot out from Zhuowen, shooting towards the guards who were fleeing in all directions. Miserable cries rang out continuously. With Zhuowen as the center, all the cultivators within a 5-kilometer radius exploded into a bloody mist under the attack of the blood spear. Hiss hiss hiss. In an instant, thousands of guards were killed, including He Yao, He Yu and He Shi, the 3 golden venerables. Such a mournful scene appeared in the eyes of the surrounding warriors, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. How did this Zhuowen suddenly become so terrifying? As a mere supreme being, not only had he managed to kill 3 golden supreme beings who were at a higher level than him, he had even managed to kill several thousand guards. Just how powerful was he to be able to accomplish this? Kill, kill, kill. Zhuowen bellowed. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a crimson light and shot towards Lu Hantian. At this moment, Ziyang Tianzuan and Heavenly Master Huang Jiao were extremely close to Lu Hantian and Elder Xun. Of course, the two of them had also noticed Zhuowen, who was chasing after them. Regardless of whether it was Ziyang Tianzuan or Heavenly Master Huang Jiao, they did not pay much attention to Zhuowen. At the beginning, the 2 Heavenly Masters were rather surprised when Zhuowen unleashed his strength to kill Heavenly Master Whitebrow and the thousands of guards. However, Heavenly Master Whitebrow was the weakest among the 5 Heavenly Masters. Furthermore, his strength had decreased sharply due to the loss of an arm. Zhuowen could only barely defeat Heavenly Master Whitebrow after unleashing his trump card. Regardless of whether it was Ziyang Tianzuan or Heavenly Master Huang Jiao, they were much stronger than Heavenly Master Whitebrow. On the other hand, Zhuowen was only a supreme being. Thus, the two of them did not take Zhuowen seriously. Even though Zhuowen's performance was extremely stunning and he had killed several thousand guards in an instant, it did not attract the attention of the 2 Heavenly Masters at all. Heavenly Master Huang Jiao. This little bastard Zhuowen is overestimating himself. Go and kill him on the spot. There's no need to be courteous to him anymore, Ziyang Tianzuan instructed Heavenly Master Huang Jiao, who was standing beside him. Looking at Ziyang Tianzuan's appearance, Heavenly Master Huang Jiao cursed in his heart. The easy task of sealing Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan's cultivation had been monopolized by Ziyang Tianzuan. However, Heavenly Master Huang Jiao actually had to deal with that little bastard Zhuowen for him. This made Heavenly Master Huang Jiao extremely unhappy. However, even though he was unhappy, Ziyang Tianzuan's status was still higher than his, and he was also the leader of the 5 Heavenly Masters. He could only swallow his unhappiness. Little bastard. It just so happens that I need to find something to vent my anger on. I'll use you as my replacement. Chapter 875. Bloodshot hair and bloodshot eyes. You little bastard who overestimates yourself. You'd better die for me. Heavenly Master Huang Jiao charged at Zhuowen. His right hand formed a claw and pressed down on Zhuowen. Terrifying Yuan power condensed and pressed down on Zhuowen's head. Rumble. The huge Yuan power claw crushed down, causing invisible whirlpools to form around it. It was as if the surrounding space was about to collapse. Zhuowen swung his bloody spear and slammed into the Yuan power claw. His body stiffened and he took a few steps back before stopping. His scarlet eyes stared coldly at Heavenly Master Huang Jiao. A piece of trash like you dares to overestimate yourself and come here to stop me and Celestial Sovereign Ziyang. I really don't know where you get your courage from. Celestial Sovereign Huang Jiao's eyes were filled with disdain as he watched Zhuowen retreat. Trash? Do you think you have the right to criticize me? You abandoned your companions and fled alone, causing Heavenly Master Guanghan and Heavenly Master Shiyu to become your sacrificial lambs. Do you think a despicable and shameless person like you has the right to criticize me? Zhuowen sneered. Heavenly Master Huang Jiao glared and shouted angrily, Nonsense! I'll kill you today. Heavenly Master Huang Jiao flew toward Zhuowen like a rock spreading its wings. The aura of a mid-heavenly master surged out, causing countless Yuan power whirlpools to form. Kill me? I'm afraid you don't have the right to do so. Zhuowen's eyes flashed coldly as he exhaled. He patted the bronze coffin behind him and opened it by a third. Zhuowen didn't open the coffin to release the pressure of the blood demon to deter his opponents. Instead, he planned to absorb the blood demon's power for his own use. With the blood inheritance seal, Zhuowen could absorb the blood demon's power to increase his own strength. However, the more he absorbed the blood demon's power, the more terrifying the influence of the blood demon's hatred would become. Lun, you lunatic! How dare you absorb my power? Do you want to die? As soon as the lid of the coffin was opened, the blood demon's shrill cry rang out. However, Yun automatically ignored the blood demon's voice and activated the blood inheritance seal in his hand. Instantly, waves of blood energy were transmitted from the coffin. Boom! As the blood demon's power surged into Zhuowen's body, the aura within his body became increasingly terrifying. Lines of blood began to appear on the surface of his skin. They were like bursting blood vessels, making him look extremely terrifying. As for Zhuowen's black hair, it gradually turned from black to blood red under the corrosion of the blood red energy. His blood red eyes and blood red hair made Zhuowen look exceptionally demonic at this moment. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic hadn't expected Zhuowen to undergo such a transformation. Furthermore, the aura that Zhuowen exuded was much stronger than before. It was almost at the level of an Empyrean. What did this kid do? How did his aura soar so much? I can't let him continue like this. I have to kill him quickly. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward and quickly approached Zhuowen. Then, his right palm suddenly blasted out with a terrifying aura. He wanted to kill Zhuowen with one strike. Boom! Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He clenched his left hand into a fist and didn't dodge Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's attack. Instead, he threw out a punch that sounded like thunder. Bang! When the fist and palm collided, a thunderous explosion rang out. Immediately after, a raging wind gushed out from the fist and palm. Get lost! Zhuowen roared. More and more lines of blood gushed out from the surface of his arm. His fist was also wrapped by the lines of blood, turning into the color of blood. It looked extremely terrifying. Pucci! Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect Zhuowen's strength to become so terrifying. Caught off guard, he was forced to retreat with a groan. Kill! When Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic retreated, Zhuowen instantly rushed forward. The blood spear in his hand became even more demonic. He flicked the tip of the spear and instantly crossed paths with Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic. Pucci! A wisp of blood spurted out. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's pupils constricted. Before he could even react, Yun had already passed by him, taking his right arm with him. Ah! Heavenly Sovereign Huang Jiao let out a miserable shriek. His left hand covered the wound on his right arm, which was now completely empty. He hurriedly spat out Yuan power to stop the blood from flowing out of his wound. His feet moved as he continuously retreated. His eyes were filled with shock as he stared at the blood-haired young man. How is this possible? Zhuowen is clearly only a supreme stage cultivator. How can he display such powerful strength? Kill! Zhuowen's right hand spun. The blood spear spun rapidly and turned into a bloody light that shot towards Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic. Block it! It must have been an illusion just now. Zhuowen can't possibly possess such powerful strength. Even if he does, he can only use it once. It's impossible for him to use it repeatedly. Suppressing the fear in his heart, Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic constantly comforted himself. His left hand formed a palm and surging origin energy formed an origin energy shield in front of him. Ding! The bloody light descended and instantly stopped. It stopped outside the origin energy shield and revealed the true appearance of the blood spear, which was spinning at high speed. Die! The moment the blood spear touched the origin energy shield, a cold voice came from behind Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic. His pupils shrank to the size of needles. He hurriedly turned his head and saw Zhuowen's scarlet-eyed fist flying towards him. Pucci! Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic felt a sharp pain in his chest when the fist landed on his back. He spat out a mouthful of blood and the origin energy shield in front of him suddenly became unstable. Then, the blood spear that was pressed against the origin energy shield instantly swept out and swept past Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's neck, leaving behind a trail of blood. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's eyes widened in anger. He hadn't realized that he had died just like that. This was because the entire process from Zhuowen's attack to Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's death only took 2 breaths of time. It was almost an instant kill. Plop. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's corpse fell from mid-air like a meteorite and smashed into the ground, stirring up a lot of dust. The hearts of countless onlookers pounded fiercely. Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic, a mid-stage Empyrean Venerate, had died just like that? Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's strength was even more terrifying than Empyrean Venerate Whitebrow. It was unbelievable that he had died just like that. What? Ecliptic is dead? At this moment, Xiang Tianzuan had already arrived beside Lu Hantian and Elder Xun. He also heard the commotion around him and turned his head to look. He immediately saw Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic's corpse falling from mid-air. There was no sign of life. After killing Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic, Zhuowen's eyes were still as calm as an ancient well. There seemed to be no emotion in those blood-red eyes. The only emotion was endless killing. Die! With a low roar, Yun turned into a blood-red light and swept toward Xiang Tianzuan at an extremely fast speed. That little bastard! Even Empyrean Venerate Ecliptic was killed by him. That damn bastard! After coming back to his senses, Xiang Tianzuan was so angry that his body trembled. If he remembered correctly, apart from him, the other 4 Empyrean Venerates of the imperial family had all been killed by Zhuon. Although Empyrean Venerate Guanghan and Empyrean Venerate Xia had been severely injured by Moyan Wushang, they had all been killed by Zhuon. To think that 4 of the 5 Empyrean Venerates of the imperial family had been killed by the same person. Furthermore, this person was a junior at the Supremacy Realm. As the leader of the 5 Empyrean Venerates, how could Xiang Tianzuan not be mad? Even you will be killed. The sound of something breaking through the air instantly approached. Zhuon was expressionless. He waved his blood-red spear and rushed towards Xiang Tianzuan. A terrifying aura of blood permeated the air, as if the entire space had fallen into Azura hell. Little bastard, if I don't kill you, I won't be Xiang Tianzuan. Xiang Tianzuan roared angrily. He stomped his foot, and a terrifying aura crushed down like a mountain. A huge Xiang rose behind him. A Xiang illuminates the world. The Xiang rose, blooming with thousands of purple lights. These thousands of purple lights were like innumerable purple snakes, entangling Zhuon, intending to completely bind Zhuon. In mid-air, Zhuon twisted his waist, and his whole body rotated 360 degrees in the air. The blood-red spear in his hand turned into an arc of blood-red light, and the thousands of purple lights that swept towards him were completely defeated by this blood-red light. After breaking through the thousands of purple lights, Zhuowen was like a hot knife through butter as he rushed toward Heavenly Venerate Ziyang without slowing down. Xiang Tianzuan's face was gloomy. Zhuowen's strength was somewhat beyond his expectations. He roared angrily, and with a drag of his right hand, the huge Xiang suspended in the air was pulled by Xiang Tianzuan and smashed toward Zhuon. Rumble! The Xiang's temperature was extremely hot. It smashed into Zhuowen like a fireball, causing Zhuowen's forward momentum to stagnate, and because of this, he was forced to retreat again and again. Not enough. Xiang Tianzuan snorted coldly, and his hands formed a seal. Suddenly, an even more blazing purple light swept out from his body, and then another Xiang slowly emerged. 2 Xiang wheels overturn heaven and earth. When the second Xiang rose to the highest point, the huge Xiang followed closely behind the first Xiang and suddenly blasted toward Zhuon. Rumble! When the second Xiang fell, the pressure on Zhuowen increased sharply. With a muffled groan, he could not help but retreat again, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Suppress! Xiang Tianzuan roared angrily, and his right hand pressed down. The 2 Xiang wheels burst out with dazzling brilliance, intending to completely crush Zhuon. Thump, thump, thump. Zhuan spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated step by step. Xiang Tianzuan was worthy of being a supreme master at the peak of the celestial master realm, and his strength was terrifying. After spitting out another mouthful of blood, Zhuan roared and slapped the bronze coffin again. Suddenly, half of the coffin lid was opened, and an even more turbulent blood demon power poured out and poured into Zhuan's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Sizzle! 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 The blood aura surrounding Zhuan's body became denser, and Zhuan's blood hair became thicker and thicker, and it kept growing. The blood hair that was originally draped over his shoulders had now reached his waist, making Zhuan even more demonic now. The power contained in Zhuan's body also increased exponentially. With a roar, Zhuan swung the blood spear, and countless blood-colored light pillars shot up into the sky. A terrifying power erupted, and the two Xiang wheels exploded. Chapter 876. Facing Emperor Qingzheng, Tianzuan's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he stared at the incoming blood spear. He roared angrily as he waved his hands. Purple energy surged out and wrapped his hands in purple energy. Block it for me! Xiang Tianzuan roared as he flung out his hands, which were wrapped in purple energy, in an attempt to grab hold of the blood spear. Clang! The blood-red light flashed, and the instant it neared the purple hands, it actually froze. However, Zhuan's gaze was still filled with indifference. You can't block it. Zhuan's cold voice rang out as he gripped the handle of the blood spear with both hands and twisted it. The blood spear began to spin violently as countless blood spears shot out. Ah! Xiang Tianzuan let out a miserable howl as the blood spear continued to spin. His hands, which were wrapped in purple energy, were crushed by the terrifying blood energy of the blood spear. Xiang Tianzuan retreated as his face turned as pale as snow. He stared in disbelief at the demonic youth with waist-length blood-red hair. What's going on? How did Zhuan's strength suddenly become so terrifying? Even he, who was at the peak of the heavenly sovereign realm, had become so fragile in his hands. Die! After crushing Emperor Xiang's hands, Zhuan's feet did not stop moving. He turned into a blood-red light and charged at Emperor Xiang again. The blood-red spear in his hand carried an indomitable aura. No! Your Majesty Emperor Qing, save me! Xiang Tianzuan stared at the blood spear with a look of despair in his eyes. Zhuan was too strong. He was so strong that he felt that it was unreal. It was impossible for such a terrifying power to come from a young supreme realm cultivator. Zhuan, you dare to kill Xiang Tianzuan? At this moment, the Azure Emperor, who was using the contract scroll to refine the Black Dragon, also noticed the commotion, especially when he saw Zhuan instantly killing Heavenly Master Huang Jiao and crushing Xiang Tianzuan's arms. Finally, a hint of emotion appeared in his eyes. At the same time, Emperor Qing struck out with his palm. Green energy gushed out and rolled wildly in the void. It turned into a green mountain that was thousands of feet tall and came crashing down on Zhuan. Right now, Emperor Qing was at a critical moment in refining the Black Dragon, so he couldn't rush over to save Xiang Tianzuan. He could only use this attack, hoping to kill Zhuan and save Xiang Tianzuan. Zhuan, you are dead for sure. Now that the Azure the Arch has made his move, you will definitely die. Xiang Tianzuan's eyes lit up with excitement as he looked at the green mountain that was crashing down on him. He knew that he would be saved if the Azure the Arch made his move. As the terrifying pressure descended, Zhuan, who was charging in midair, felt his body sink. He found it difficult to move, as if he was in a swamp. This was the Emperor's aura, the pressure of an Emperor realm expert. Kill. No one can stop me. Roaring to the sky, Zhuan patted the coffin on his back with his right hand. In an instant, the coffin lid opened from half to two-thirds. Endless blood qi swept out from the coffin like a whirlpool, completely enveloping Zhuan's small figure. Sizzle! 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 Within the blood-red whirlpool, Zhuan's eyes became even redder. His cheeks were covered with countless blood-red veins, and his blood-red hair, which was originally waist-length, grew crazily again, all the way to his buttocks. A sea of blood rolled out from the void. Zhuan stomped his foot, and the countless blood-red whirlpools around him dissipated. Stepping on the sea of blood, he actually completely destroyed the powerful emperor's aura that was descending on him. Rumble! The Cyan Mountain arrived in an instant and fell toward Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen pointed the tip of his spear and actually blasted it towards the huge falling mountain. This spear contained a monstrous sea of blood, a boundless will, and Zhuowen's boundless madness. A scene that left everyone dumbfounded happened. The surface of the green mountain formed by Emperor Qing's powerful attack started to crack. Moreover, the cracks were still spreading. In the end, the huge green mountain collapsed and turned into countless green light. Within the endless green light, a blood-red shadow swept out again. Its target was Zhang Tianzuan, who was not far away. The smile on Zhang Tianzuan's face completely froze, and his eyes were finally filled with endless fear. How is this possible? Even the Azure Thearka's attack could not stop Zhuan. How is this possible? Unfortunately, Zhang Tianzuan did not think for too long. The blood-red light flashed past his eyebrows, and then a wisp of blood flowed out from between his eyebrows. The expression on Zhang Tianzuan's face was completely frozen at that moment of fear. Plop. When Heavenly Venerate Ziyang's corpse fell to the ground and made a loud noise, the surrounding people snapped out of their daze. Heavenly Master Huang Jiao and Zhang Tianzuan had been killed in front of them. Moreover, they had been killed so easily. What was even more incredible was that the Azure Thearka's attack had been broken. All eyes were focused on the figure with blood-red hair that reached his buttocks. The young man in front of them had created a miracle by killing 5 heavenly masters as a mere supreme being. Such a magnificent feat was unprecedented. The Azure Thearka's face was extremely ugly. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's terrifying combat strength, but he was even more heartbroken by the deaths of the 5 heavenly masters. These 5 celestial masters had been cultivated by Emperor Qing. Moreover, it had taken him many years to cultivate these 5 celestial masters. But now they had all been killed by Zhuowen. This power does not belong to him at all. It's the power of a demon. I don't know what method he used to turn himself into a demon and obtain such a terrifying power. The Azure Thearka's eyes were solemn. He could see Zhuowen's current state at a glance. It was a sign of turning into a demon. The deeper Zhuowen went into a demon, the more powerful the power he could obtain. Once he completely turned into a demon, the demon power would be completely stimulated and he would become an out-and-out demon who killed people like flies. Damn it! Why did he have to turn into a demon at this moment? I was so close to completely refining the Black Dragon. Thinking of this, the Azure Thearka's face turned ugly. Now that he had entered the critical moment of refining the Dragon Soul, Zhuan had actually chosen to turn into a demon to obtain powerful power. This was simply beyond the Azure Thearka's expectations. At this moment, Nguyen had already come to the side of Lu Hantian and Elder Xun. He clapped his right hand and took out a bronze paper kite from his spiritual ring. The bronze paper kite was the flying spiritual treasure that Lu Hantian had given him back then. Its speed was not slow and it was an excellent means of transportation for severely injured warriors like Lu Hantian and Elder Xun. Zhuowen's eyes were red as he forcefully suppressed the terrifying desire to kill. He said to Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan in a deep voice, "Brother Hantan, Elder Xun, the two of you quickly get on the bronze paper kite and leave the imperial capital." Lun, why did you choose to turn into a demon? Once you turn into a demon, your destiny will no longer be controlled by yourself. Instead, it will be dominated by the endless desire to kill in your mind. At that time, you will lose yourself and become a demon, Lu Hantian said in a low voice. I have no other choice. Let's leave quickly. I can't control the desire to kill anymore. Zhuowen roared and waved his right hand. Instantly, Lu Hantian and Elder Xuan were wrapped up by Zhuowen and brought onto the bronze paper kite. Then, Zhuowen clapped his right hand on the bronze paper kite. With a high-pitched chirp, the bronze paper kite carried Lu Hantian and Elder Xun. It turned into a beam of green light and rushed out of the imperial capital. After the bronze paper kite had completely disappeared from sight, Zhuowen slowly turned around. His blood-red eyes stared at Emperor Qing, who was still refining Xiao He not far away. The Azure Emperor frowned as he sensed Zhuo Wen's murderous gaze. He felt a tinge of anxiety in his heart. Now that he was about to succeed in refining, Zhuo Wen was still lingering around. At the same time, Xiao He, who was originally weak, started to struggle with all her might. Dragon roars were heard continuously. Xiao He, wait for me. I'll let you out. Zhuo Wen muttered softly. He took a step forward and flew towards Emperor Qing. He was very fast. In just 2 breaths' time, he was near Emperor Qing. Emperor Qing, I'll kill you. As he spoke, Zhuo Wen's blood-red spear had already shot out. Boundless sharpness overflowed in all directions. The blood-red tip of the spear actually shot straight towards Emperor Qing's glabella. It contained a dense and indomitable aura. Damn it! In 5 breaths' time, I will be able to refine this dragon soul completely. Damn it! Von, you bastard! Zhuo Wen's spear was even more terrifying than before. Especially now that Zhuo Wen had turned into a demon, his strength had reached the first level of the martial emperor realm. Even Emperor Qing didn't dare to stand still and let Zhuo Wen attack him. With a furious roar, the Azure Emperor retreated with an indignant expression. He even cursed, which was a rare sight. Swoosh! Zhuo Wen came in front of Xiao He and pushed out with his right palm. A powerful force was released and the blood runes that surrounded Xiao He's body were shattered by Zhuo Wen's powerful palm. After breaking free from the blood runes, Xiao He's huge dragon body gradually shrank. Finally, he turned into a palm-sized Xiao He. However, the little black dog was already on the verge of death. Its black spiritual body had become illusory and lusterless, and its aura was extremely weak. Xiao He slowly landed on Zhuo Wen's shoulder. He forced a smile and said in a low voice, I didn't expect you to use the blood inheritance seal. Are you tired of living? Zhuo Wen shook his head and said, Do you think I can tolerate you being refined by Emperor Qing? You are my partner. I will not let you be enslaved by Emperor Qing. So what if you become a demon? After all, there are times when you can't control yourself. Xiao He, you have used too much of your origin energy. Go back to the spiritual ring first. Zhuo Wen suddenly said. Xiao He was stunned. He said hesitantly, Your sea of consciousness? It has been destroyed. Zhuo Wen said softly. Previously, Emperor Qing's strength was too strong. Moreover, he had stirred up Zhuo Wen's sea of consciousness without restraint. Even though Zhuo Wen's sea of consciousness was strong, it could not withstand the torment. Now, it was basically destroyed. Chapter 877. 9-star alignment. Looking at the young man with blood-red eyes and blood-red hair, Xiao He suddenly realized that the young man in front of her seemed to be a completely different person from Zhuo Wen. After becoming a demon, Yun had become much colder. It was an attitude that looked at everything as if they were nothing. Xiao He, leave everything to me. Go into the spirit ring first. Zhuo Wen turned his head and a smile appeared on his face. However, at this moment, Zhuo Wen's eyes were scarlet red and his cheeks were covered with ferocious veins. This made Zhuo Wen appear rather ferocious and strange. Looking at the smile on Zhuo Wen's face, Xiao He suddenly felt a lump in her throat. The young man in front of her had become unrecognizable because he had become a demon. Moreover, Xiao He also knew that Zhuo Wen was currently enduring inhumane torture and pain. Zhuo Wen, be careful. Xiao He opened her mouth but did not know what to say. However, her black eyes were already filled with mist. In the end, she could only spit out this sentence. Xiao He turned into a black light and entered Zhuo Wen's spirit ring. Letting out a light breath, Zhuo Wen slowly raised his head and stared at the flustered and exasperated Emperor Qing in front of him. The killing intent in his eyes became even more intense and the blood-red color in his eyes became even deeper. Little bastard! Whether or not you have become a demon today, you will still die. Moreover, you will die in an extremely ugly manner. Emperor Qing roared in exasperation. He had almost completely refined Xiao He and made her his dragon soul. However, that bastard Zhuo Wen had actually ruined all his plans at the crucial moment. Now, not only had he failed to obtain the dragon soul, But the contract scroll had also been completely destroyed because of his failure to refine it. In other words, even if he captured Zhuowen now and took out the dragon soul that was hiding in Zhuowen's spirit ring, he would not be able to graft the dragon soul onto himself. After all, the contract scroll was so precious, and the Lotus Supreme the Arch had only obtained it by chance. He only had one copy. The person who had caused all this was this damned Zhuowen. At this moment, the Azure Emperor wished he could chop Zhuowen into pieces. Zhuowen's eyes were cold and bloodthirsty as he stared at the Azure Emperor. With a roar, he stomped on the ground, and a terrifying power spread out. With him as the center, the ground within dozens of miles started to shake violently. Then the surrounding ground started to crack, and countless gravel floated up, forming an extremely terrifying gravel tornado. Zhuowen's demonic blood-red hair danced in the wild wind. Following which, Yun shot towards the Azure the Arch like an arrow. Wherever he passed, the ground cracked, forming a moat-like tunnel. Kill! Emperor Qing squinted his eyes and stomped his foot. 9 huge pits appeared on the ground and 9 green stars floated in the sky from the 9 pits. You're overestimating yourself. I will let you know that. So what if you've become a demon? Are still no match for me. With that, the Azure Emperor waved his hands, and the 9 green stars turned into 9 rays of green light that shot toward Zhuowen. Bang! The nearest star arrived in front of Zhuowen in an instant and made close contact with Zhuowen. Zhuowen roared angrily and used his long spear to block in front of him. Then, the green star descended and blasted on the blood spear. The powerful force caused Zhuowen's forward momentum to stop, and he even involuntarily took a few steps back. 9-star alignment. The Azure Emperor stomped his foot again, and the other 8 green stars flew over together. One after another, they blocked the first star, forming a 9-star alignment. In an instant, the superimposed power of the 9 stars increased by more than 9 times. Thump, thump, thump. In front of the 9 huge stars, Zhuowen's figure seemed so small, like an ant. He retreated step by step. The blood spear was placed in front of Zhuowen's hands. Under the powerful force of the 9 stars, Zhuowen roared angrily, and the veins on his forehead popped out. An ant will always be an ant. Zhuowen, you are not qualified to be my opponent. You can't even block my 9-star alignment, and you still want to resist me? The Azure Emperor leaped and stepped on the star at the top of the 9-star alignment. He looked down at Zhuowen, who was at the bottom, and his eyes were full of arrogance. However, an ant like you actually dared to destroy the best opportunity for me to refine the dragon soul. Therefore, you deserve to die. You deserve to be killed. With that, the Azure Emperor's eyes grew colder. He stomped his foot, and a terrifying force filled the 9-star alignment. Zhuowen groaned as he was suppressed by the 9-star alignment. He almost couldn't breathe and spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom! The Azure Emperor lifted his foot again and stomped on the star. The pressure of the 9-star alignment increased sharply, and Zhuowen's knees were bent. He almost knelt on the ground, and his face turned pale. You are just a pitiful ant. Do you think you can go against me just because you can borrow the power of the blood demon? Do you think you can go against me even if you have turned into a demon? It is a pity that you have made a big mistake. Even if you borrow the power of the blood demon, you are still not my opponent. With that, the Azure Emperor stomped on the star again, and the 9-star alignment made a cracking sound. Zhuowen couldn't withstand such a terrifying force. He knelt on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. This is the last blow. Before you die, I want you to remember that you need to know your own limits. Any actions that overestimate yourself will cause you to die without a burial ground. With that, the Azure Emperor lifted his right foot for the last time and stomped on the 9-star alignment. A heavenly force exploded within the 9-star alignment, and Zhuowen was completely submerged by the 9-star alignment. However, when Zhuowen was submerged, his crimson eyes became extremely demonic. What the Azure Emperor didn't notice was that Zhuowen had completely opened the bronze coffin at that moment. At that moment, Zhuowen's figure could no longer be seen at the bottom of the 9-star alignment. The power contained in the 3 stomps of the Azure Emperor was too terrifying. Even if Zhuan had turned into a demon, he couldn't withstand it. It seems that even if Zhuan has turned into a demon, he is still no match for the Azure Emperor. Didn't you see the battle between His Majesty the Azure Emperor and Lu Hantian? After all, Lu Hantian is also a first-level martial emperor, but he is still no match for His Majesty the Azure Emperor. Therefore, His Majesty the Azure Emperor is at least a second-level martial emperor. In the imperial power realm, a difference of one level is like heaven and earth. However, Yun is indeed powerful. He is clearly a junior at the martial emperor realm, but he was actually able to kill the 5 heavenly venerables of the imperial family. It's too terrifying. If this kid can grow up, it is entirely possible for him to advance to the imperial power realm. Seeing Zhuan completely submerged in the 9-star alignment, the surrounding cultivators shook their heads and sighed. Although Zhuan had been suppressed to death by the Azure Emperor, they couldn't help but admit that his talent was extremely terrifying. During the Great War of the 9 counties, Zhuan was just an unknown genius from the 8 counties. Later on, he stood out in the ranking battle and almost defeated Huangfu Wudao in the Heavenly Marquee battle. From then on, his name shook the imperial capital. After that, many things happened, and Zhuan disappeared for unknown reasons. After more than a month, Zhuan returned in a powerful manner, causing chaos in the imperial capital's dungeon and killing countless guards. Even the 5 heavenly venerables of the imperial family had fallen because of him. In the eyes of outsiders, this series of magnificent feats was simply a miracle, but Zhuan had done it all. Among the countless spectating cultivators, there were also a few geniuses who were in the top 10 of the ranking battle, including Guosheng, Zhu Bai, Murong Zhan, Grand Lily, and some other talented juniors. Their gazes were more complicated than the others. To them, the cultivators of the Xuanzun realm were already existences that they could only look up to. However, Zhuan had now killed 5 heavenly venerables, and Xiang Tianzuan was even at the peak of the heavenly venerate realm. They had to admit that Zhuan was really too abnormal. Unknowingly, the gap between Zhuan and them had become wider and wider, so much so that they could only look at his back. Among them, the one with the most complicated expression was none other than Grand Lily. After she had been released by Zhuan, she had rushed back to the Grand Lily clan and completely stabilized the somewhat chaotic Grand Lily clan. She knew that her father, Grand Haohai, would definitely not be able to survive. In order to avenge Grand Haohai, Grand Lily had been cultivating day and night during this period of time. Her goal was to catch up to Zhuan in terms of cultivation. Finally, the heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. Recently, Grand Lily's cultivation had successfully broken through to the initial stage of the Xuanzun realm. She also knew that her cultivation was getting closer and closer to Zhuan's, and she was also one step closer to taking revenge. However, what had happened in the imperial city today had completely shattered Grand Lily's confidence. On this night that was destined to not be peaceful, Zhuan had suddenly appeared in the imperial city's dungeon. The strength that he had unleashed had shocked Grand Lily, especially when she had seen Zhuan kill heavenly venerate Huang Jiao and Xiang Tianzuan. Her heart had almost jumped out of her chest, and her face had turned deathly pale. It was only then that she realized that the gap between her and Zhuan had not narrowed. Instead, it had widened and the gap had become wider and wider. She had just broken through to Mystique Venerate, but Zhuan was already able to kill heavenly venerate powerhouses. This gap was not something that could be made up with hard work and cultivation. When she recalled her arrogant behavior in front of Zhuan, Grand Lily suddenly felt that she had been exceptionally laughable at that time. Her fiancé, Zhuan, whom she had looked down on back then, had not only wreaked havoc in the imperial city's dungeon today and killed 5 heavenly venerates, but even the Lotus Emperor had personally taken action to capture him. How glorious and powerful was this? Taking a deep breath, Grand Lily calmed herself down. Her expression returned to normal as she muttered faintly, "No matter how terrifyingly talented this Zhuan is or how powerful he is, he's already dead. In the future, Zhuan will soon be forgotten." Grand Lily understood the rules of this mainland better than Zhuan. The loser would never have the right to be remembered by others because that was the right of the winner. Immediately, become a demon. Just as the surrounding people were shaking their heads and sighing, a calm and indifferent voice slowly rang out from the underground of the 9-star pearl. Then, a monstrous blood aura burst out from the bottom. Rumble. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.